I was really struggling there for the last hour getting the audio system set up. We had wind and we had a number of problems. So, but it did all work out. So.
We had quite the storms up here. The storm that passed through this past weekend, a few deaths and just so much damage. There's still 100,000 people without power in Quebec.
Wow.
It was quite the gale. It was quite the set of squalls, and luckily one of my students was out camping. He was safe and got to see a couple of fireballs. So
No.
Oh, that's good.
some astronomy did happen.
Good for you, Karim.
I think lately all I get to see are Starlink streaks.
Oh, yeah.
My question is how likely is next Monday night's meteor shower? Do we think? Do we have any predictions here?
Well, what I just found out was that the prediction that the Earth is going to travel through the center of the 1995 breakup was independently arrived at by two meteor astronomers, and I think we have a good chance of getting something. Whether it will be a storm, a lot of meteors, or nothing, I really don't know. But I shall be out there.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to seeing people's pictures. We'll see what the forecast is here. End of May.
What's
Mind
the
you,
lunar phase then? Is it?
It's a new moon phase. It's going to be like almost it's very, very light waxing crescent, I think, if that.
Nice.
It'll set before we get to the maximum predicted, which is, I think, at like 1 a.m. Eastern time or 2 a.m. Eastern time.
Ours will be at 10 p.m. Eastern time, 10 p.m. Mountain time, Arizona time. I'm looking forward to it. Wendy and I will be out there.
It's exciting. It's one of a kind. We've not had this. The Tau, or like they've not been anything to mention or even worth like going out and trying.
I like the idea. These meteors are slow moving because the camera has an easier time catching them when they move slowly. It's like 60 kilometers a second. Very slow.
So is it traveling roughly prograde around the sun? Is that why they're so slow?
We're going through the part that precedes where the comet broke up. Just
Okay.
It's apparently the leftover from the disintegration from 2 visits ago when it brightened suddenly to actual visible.
It brightened almost naked eye. Split into 6 or something. And Monday night we're going through the whole densest part of that.
Wow.
Is this a high inclination comet? Or meteor stream?
I don't think so.
The radiant, it's the Tau Herculid shower. And the radiant will be, has really migrated over to blue phase now.
We have a little
Just
bit of
look overhead.
strange background noise, guys. There's some buzzing going on. If anyone is watching the replay, okay, of this on social media, that audio just needs to be turned off. I recommend that you do watch it, but the little bit of an echo might happen. So
My computer's been giving me some trouble, so I'll switch to a headset before my segment.
I have nothing else on.
I can hear
There is an echo, yeah.
Is there an echo when I turn my mic off?
No, you sound good.
yeah, I don't hear it anymore. Jeff Weiss says it's an echo duck sound. So who's watching so far? We already have people logged in. Harold Locke is on, Chris Larson, Senthil Nagapan's on, Martin Eastburn, a lot of the regulars, Chris Larson, who else? As I mentioned, Jeff Wise, Mike Wiesner's watching. He says, watching for a few minutes. That's right. Yeah, Mike, it's an addictive program, designed to hypnotize you. Harold says, good evening, presenters, Karim, David, Scott. Tornadoes in the St. Lawrence area and Ontario. It's crazy. Mom thinks she remembers something like this as a kid. Canada does get tornadoes. Absolutely.
It's an amazing sight to watch polar bears go flying through the air.
Penguins, right? The penguins in Canada, yeah.
If you go far north enough for, elementary school play.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
We tried to hunt them with a camera in, it's not called this anymore, but North Point Barrow, Alaska.
Oh, yeah.
You were about to get into a lot of trouble there.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, I don't know the new name, but anyhow, you hunt for them at night because you can't see, they're white, so you can't see them in the snow, and they hunt with their paws over their big black noses, so you can't see them. But at night, when they're out in the frozen Arctic Ocean, they have these huge reflective eyes, so you just shine a spotlight around to try to find them.
Wow. Cool.
Pretty cool.
I guess if you are out there with the polar bears, you are also on the menu.
Oh yes, well we traveled in a big van with two guys with shotguns. Just in case.
Mhm.
Just in case. And it turns out we didn't see polar bears at all, but we saw these amazing auroral.
Oh, nice.
Today it's different.
It's not a wasted
I
night.
went back and forth with Sue.
Was it them?
Yeah. I said, there was no gift card. I said, but we were 99% sure it was for me too.
They get a big hug when we see them.
But I said, as soon as David took it out of the box, he loved it, and the shrink wrap is still on.
Well, Wendy's right here. Say hi to everyone.
Hi, everyone. Who's
Hi,
there?
Wendy.
Hi, Wendy.
Thanks for
Everybody see me wave?
thanks for your global star party greeting.
Thank you. And don't forget, I'm listening in.
All right. Okay, we won't say anything that's too
I
crazy.
rate you every night.
Awesome. Jeff Wise tells us that flying polar bears were not injured in making this stream. Right. And then he says, I hope the polar bears win sometimes. Jeff, they do win sometimes.
Oh, they do.
Absolutely win. Yep. Okay. Well, gentlemen, I guess we will get started here. So here we go. We have this beautiful sonification. I love these things. Nebula like this are definitely the origins of many things in our universe.
Fast radio bursts, or FRBs, are extraordinary events that generate as much energy in 1,000th of a second as the sun does in an entire year. Astronomers using NASA's Hubble Space Telescope have traced the locations of 5 brief, powerful radio blasts to the spiral arms of 5 distant galaxies. Because these radio pulses disappear in much less than the blink of an eye, researchers have had a hard time tracking down where they come from and what causes them. Locating the galaxies where these blasts originate is important in determining what astronomical events trigger such intense flashes of energy. The Hubble Space Telescope helped researchers narrow the list of possible FRB sources. Since their discovery, astronomers have uncovered up to 1,000 FRBs, but only about 15 are associated with particular galaxies. In this new Hubble study of FRBs, astronomers pinpointed where those bursts occurred within their specific galaxies. These images display a range of spiral arm structures, from tightly wound to more open, revealing how stars are distributed along these prominent features. These clues helped researchers rule out some of the possible stellar objects originally thought to cause these brilliant flares, including the explosive deaths of the youngest, most massive stars, which create gamma-ray bursts and some type of supernova. Another unlikely source is the merger of neutron stars, the crushed cores of stars that end their lives in supernova explosions. These mergers take billions of years to occur and are usually far from the spiral arms of older galaxies that no longer form stars. This study suggests that FRBs do not originate from the youngest, most massive stars or from older stars in a galaxy's central bulge. However, it is consistent with the leading model that FRBs originate from young magnetar outbursts. Magnetars are a type of neutron star with powerful magnetic fields. Called the strongest magnets in the universe, magnetars possess a magnetic field 10 trillion times more powerful than the magnets on your refrigerator door. These magnetic fields lead to flares and magnetic processes that can emit radio light. Although the Hubble results are exciting, researchers need more observations to better pinpoint the source of FRBs so they can develop a stronger understanding of these enigmatic flashes. This field of study may need a lot more research, but thanks to observations made with the Hubble Space Telescope, we're getting closer to understanding the mysteries of the universe.
Hello everyone, this is Scott Roberts from Explore Scientific and the Explore Alliance, and you're watching the 95th Global Star Party, and the theme tonight is Cosmic Origins. We have an incredible lineup of speakers. Let me just kind of read off who will be joining us tonight. David Levy joins us, of course. I saw David over the weekend at Carolyn Shoemaker's tribute. There was a special gathering that we did. We were lucky enough to be able to broadcast live. If you missed it, I'll try to put in the link where you can go and watch it. But it was an amazing event and with so many wonderful people giving comments about and memories and and jokes, all kinds of manner of remembrances for this amazing woman. So that was on Sunday. It was also happened to be David Levy's birthday, his 74th birthday. So it was wonderful to be able to share that with him and to sing him happy birthday as well. Don Knabb from the Astronomical League will be joining us, sharing the questions and answers and asking more questions so that you can win door prizes here on Global Star Party. OPT's Dustin Gibson, and also Dustin Gibson, the astrophotographer of Gibson Pics, will be on with us, and we hope that he's able to introduce a special guest from Tagback TV. Professor Karim Jaffer from the RASC Montreal Center and the John Abbott College will be on with us. He's introducing Lou Mayo of NASA Goddard Space Flight Center with a special program he's been working on with Girl Scouts. That's really awesome. Navin Senthil Kumar, a young astronomer, will be joining us as well. And then we go to space artist and author Michael Carroll, Nebraska Star Parties, John Johnson, Maxi Falieres from Argentina, Carina Letelier from Chile will be on with us. Cesar Brollo, also from Argentina, and Adrian Bradley, and we may have one or two other special guests coming on that I might have missed here. But anyhow, I'm still a little wobbly after some crazy schedule for this weekend, but forgive me for that. And we'll get started with my dear friend and your dear friend, David Levy. David, it's all yours, man.
Thank you so much, Scott. It was wonderful. I can't believe how wonderful and relieved I was when you showed up in Flagstaff last weekend.
It was great.
And the trivia was interesting. The Saturday night version was the first time I'd given a public in-person lecture in over 2 years, and the first time most of the audience had attended one in 2 years. But Sunday was, I was uncertain. When I got to Lowell Observatory, and I got to the site where the memorial would be held, my heart was just filled with emotion. They were flooding in. And Patrick, Carolyn's son, appeared shortly. And I went up to him, gave him a hug, and I said, Pat, this is a little more difficult than I thought it would be. And he just burst into tears and he said, for me too. Anyway, it was very, very special to remember Carolyn Shoemaker. And I did find out that one of the Shoemaker daughters wasn't there. And I found out the reason why, and that is that Carolyn had told her that when she dies, she does not want a memorial service. She said, when I'm gone, it's gone. I won't be there. And of course, with all due respect to Carolyn, these services were really for the people who did come and who showed up. And I don't think we could have done without it. For my poem today, this is something that I got out of a episode of Signed, Sealed, and Delivered. It is a program on the Hallmark Channel, which I think is the best show on television. I just think it's wonderful. And I've been to the post office here, and I've asked the people there, some of the employees, if they had seen it. And they were very surprised when I said this crazy little show about the dead letter office in Denver, I think is the best show on television. We watched I think it was last night, we watched the episode called Edge of Forever. And at the end of that, the main character in the show reads Sevilla Martin's poem, His Eye is on the Sparrow. It's a religious poem that she wrote in 1905. And in 2014, while we were at the Adirondack Astronomy Retreat, I rewrote it the way I like to see it. And I would like to quote it to you now. Whenever I am tempted, whenever clouds arise, when songs give place to sighing, when hope within me dies, I draw closer to the sky, from care it sets me free. My eye is on the sky, and I know it watches me. My eye is on the sky, and I know it watches me. Thank you. Back to you, Scott.
Thank you, David. Thank you. I want to, that live presentation, that live talk that David gave at the Coconino Art Center, that had a special tribute. There was space art there. There was a special display of the films that Carolyn and Jean and David made at the Palomar Schmidt camera. That was on display, but kind of arranged in a beautiful artistic rendition. I'd really not quite seen a whole display devoted to the night sky condition like it was that night in that art center. David's talk was one of the best, and I've seen many of his talks, was probably one of the best I'd ever seen. And it really, for everyone there, I could tell that they were shook to the core, and we all gave David a standing ovation at the end because it was just such a tremendous delivery, and so it was just nothing short of wonderful. David, thank you
so
for
much,
that.
Scott. Thanks for saying that, Scott.
Thank you. Okay, all right. So we are going now to the Astronomical League with Don Knabb. I do like to let everyone know that the Astronomical League is a tremendous supporter of the astronomical community at large. They have over 80 observing programs. They have dozens of recognition programs supporting everything from lifetime devotion and impact in the world of astronomy to amazing young people that do research and make a difference in high school. That's the National Young Astronomers Award. But there's the Jack Horkheimer Award, and there's just so many other awards that I could never get through them tonight and describe them and do any justice to it. But they are coming up on their next Alcon event, which we will also broadcast some of that live as well, but it will be in fact happening in Albuquerque. So Don Knabb is coming on now to tell us more about it. Don?
Okay, well, I'm going to do the the slides in a moment, but you know, everyone saw this before, recognizes that we start with a slide that warns you about solar observing. So I want to show you something first. So the May issue of Astronomy, in it has Bob Berman's article, and this is entirely about, he calls it the most dangerous spectacle. This is all about solar observing. He mentions, especially with summertime, we do a lot of solar observing. He mentions that he had an email from a reader a few years ago who had ruined part of his eyesight because he he got careless looking for Mercury near the sun. He mentions that his wife had a very close call during the 2017 eclipse. At the very end of it, she started to see the chromosphere, and within a second or two, the sun started to shine, but she got her eyes away, luckily. But the most fun thing he mentions in here is that on there's an eclipse on May 10th, 1994, and Bob was on a public radio show, and they had it covered 8 states and 450,000 listeners. So at the end of his winter, he was warning everyone how to observe it, do the proper filter, and they opened up the questions. And one caller has sincerely asked, if the eclipse is so dangerous, why are they having it? So. All right, so let me share my screen. And I will go to slideshow. Coming through okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so again, we always start warning everyone that you have to observe the sun with a properly filtered telescope or binoculars. People lose their eyesight doing this if you do it wrong. You have to use professionally made filters. Bob Berman actually talks about welder's glass, and he is saying the sweet spot is what they call a grade 13. People use 12, 13, or 14s. 14 is a little dark, 12 a little light, 13 welder's glass, certified welder's glass without any defects is what he prefers to use. You can't leave your telescope unattended. If you use eclipse glasses, they have to be ISO compliant. Never use sunglasses or exposed film, anything else. You have to use the right thing. And if you don't know what the right thing is, ask. So we always start with that warning. So I'm going to go to the last week's answers. An asterism known as the 3 leaps of the gazelle can be found in what constellation? And that is Ursa Major, the Big Bear. Second question was the recently imaged black hole at the center of the Milky Way has a name. What is it? And it's Sagittarius A star. This is the image of the black hole at the center of our galaxy from the Event Horizon Telescope collaboration. Amazing, amazing things. And the third question, it's June 21, and it's a clear day. At one point in the middle of the day, the sun cast no shadows at all. Which of the following places might you be? The answer was Hawaii. Okay. All right, so these were the people with the correct answers: Cameron Gillis, Adrian Bradley, Andrew Corkill, Josh Kovac, Connell Richards, Barbara Harris, John Williams, and me. Okay, so those names get added to the door prize list. All right, so now are the going on to nice questions. These are the ones we all make up our own questions. Whoever is doing the presenting makes their own questions. So these are from me. So you know where to send your complaints if you have any. So the Leo triplet of galaxies consists of Messier 66, 67, and which one of the following? The hamburger galaxy, the hot dog galaxy, or the ham and cheese galaxy? Which one of those? And here's a chart I made of Leo, my favorite constellation. And here's the Leo triplet. So which is the third? It is not a Messier object, but is it the hamburger, hot dog, or ham and cheese galaxy? And as always, send answers to secretary@astroleague.org. Hamburger, hot dog, or ham and cheese galaxy. Okay, astronaut Karen Nyberg became the 50th woman in space on her first mission to the ISS in 2008. While she was in space, she crafted and stitched together a toy dinosaur for her son, which she made from scraps of fabric recycled from what? A, discarded lens cleaning tissues from telescopes. B, worn out socks from spacewalks. Or C, the lining of the Russian cosmonauts' food containers. Which of these did she make a toy for her son? Lens cleaning tissues, worn out socks from spacewalks, or Russian cosmonaut food container liners? And last one, in the news lately, the Hubble Space Telescope discovered the most distant known star. I think this is through gravitational lensing. Star is called Arundel. That name comes from which fantasy writings? Harry Potter, The Similarian, or The Wheel of Time? Harry Potter, Similarian, or The Wheel of Time. So the star named Arundel. Answers go to secretary@astroleague.org. Two more quick slides. AL Live comes back on Friday, June 17th, 7 o'clock with Dr. Caitlin Ahrens. So that is always fun to watch. And I'm chair of the Mideast region of the Astronomical League, so I'll just put one slide up about our upcoming regional events. Cherry Springs Star Party is in early June. Wonderful event. York County Star Party is having two events in central Pennsylvania. The first one is June 22nd to 26th. And our Mideast region will have our annual meeting at Green Bank Star Quest, June 29th to July 2nd. Star Quest, I can't say too many wonderful things about it. It's a great event. And just to be able to camp in the field inside of this world's largest fully steerable telescope, it's just an awesome experience. So come and join us if you can. Back to you, Scott.
Okay, all right. It's always awesome to get the creative questions that you guys come up with. So I love that. We are now going to go to Dustin Gibson, if Dustin's here with us. Dustin is maybe not quite yet. He'll be up here in a moment. I think we'll do a little bit of shuffling here if that's the case. Dustin will be coming on. Why don't we go ahead and introduce Karim Jaffer. Karim is everybody's wished for professor of astronomy. He's at John Abbott College, and he is amazing at explaining some pretty difficult concepts in astronomy, which he has to do every day with his classes, and which he does fabulously in his outreach activities. I was reading a quote from Einstein, and I'll paraphrase. Basically, he said, if you can't explain something to a 6-year-old child, okay, that means you really don't even understand it yourself. Karim does a fantastic job in bringing down to earth some of the most difficult concepts in astronomy to convey, and he always brings on to some amazing guests of his own. And so, Karina, I'm going to turn it over to you, man. Thank you for coming on again for Global Star Party.
Thanks, Scott. It's great to be here. Scott's caught me a little bit off guard today. That's okay. I was not originally planning on presenting something, but I did put something quick together for a check-in, but then I also have something else that popped into mind that I decided I'm going to talk through before I introduce Lou Mayo to everyone.
Yep. Hey,
So,
Karim, your audio is a little off.
oh, it
maybe-
still is. Okay, hold on. Let me fix this.
it sounds a
Is
little-
that better?
A lot better.
Okay,
Yep.
perfect.
Thank you.
No worries, no worries. I blame it entirely on you calling me out. No, I'm kidding. It's my computer's been acting up lately, so I keep having to switch on and off of the headphones. Some days it works, and some days it just gives me nothing but problems.
Sure.
So, as Scott mentioned, today is the topic is cosmic origins, and we're going to have some fun talking about that in a few minutes. And I'm going to call on my fellow panelists in about 5 minutes. So I'm giving them ample warning to turn off their videos and mute themselves and pretend they're not here if they don't want to be part of this discussion. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to do a brief check-in. As many of you know, I wear a bunch of different outreach hats, and I do that on purpose because there's a lot that we gained during the COVID pandemic times. For myself, I count myself lucky that I found the Global Star Parties, that my daughter was able to come in on that first, the great conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn back in December 2020 was my real introduction to the Global Star Parties. And then when I pitched the idea of International Astronomy Day for GSP 45, Scott was gung-ho. He said, just go with it, go as far as you want to go. And we went almost 8 hours of just nonstop content from some of our local Montreal astronomers, from some of my former students, from some friends of the society. And that included Pete Williamson, who brought me into a circle of astronomy outreach people in the UK. And through them, I joined several different groups in the UK. And one of them was this wonderful virtual astronomy club that Dave Eagle had begun during COVID times. His idea was, because most of the clubs had kind of shuttered all of their activities and not all of them had gone online, that he would provide a forum for people from anywhere to join in and have fun and chat astronomy and have these weekly talks like what your society would normally do during non-COVID times. So I went to a couple of the talks. I also chatted with Dave a little bit during Solar Sphere last year. And then he had invited me to give a talk at the end of this past winter season. So we worked out, and he said, I'd like you to give a talk on our very last one of the season. And so unfortunately, that actually ended up being the very last Virtual Astronomy Club meeting, period. And so I had the privilege and I guess also kind of the misfortune to not get a chance to really interact with this club until the very end of its meeting time. But it created this wonderful group of astronomy enthusiasts from all across the world, but mostly based out of the UK. And I got to share with them a little bit of the two-eyed seeing for the spring season, a few of the circumpolar constellations from here in the north, and a few of the indigenous stories that are able to be told at any time of the year. And it was just a wonderful environment. And I was very honored to be chosen to be their last speaker for the Virtual Astronomy Club. And that was last Tuesday. And so when I came to the GSP last Tuesday evening, I was a little bit heavy of heart, but I thought, this is great. I still have wonderful outreach avenues available to me. And we were talking about what's happening within our local club as we were starting to move into some in-person events. And then 2 days later, we got the news that the other big group that I've been on, which is Astro Radio, which is a volunteer radio station for astronomy and music in the UK, they've had to shutter their windows as well. And so our Reach Out and Touch Space panel, which began twice a week and had switched over to every Monday, is no longer active. And that hit a lot of us at home because this was a very novel approach to astronomy outreach. And the reason it was novel was a few things. First off, it's because it mixed both musical interest as well as an interest in astronomy and space. And a lot of us, you know, when we're in school, we talk about balancing the two sides of the brain, and we talk about the idea that most people have that other outlet, that other side to them. And for me, I was first exposed to this with astronomy through David Levy. When David would come and give his talks, there'd always be poetry, there'd always be a little bit of music, and he would talk about listening to music while he was out doing his comet hunting. And I'd encourage my students early on in the term to give me the names of some astronomy themed songs that they wanted on our playlist, so that when we would have labs and there'd be a little bit of a lull, you know, when there weren't engineering labs happening next door that needed peace and quiet so that they could argue their project processes, or when, you know, there wasn't a ton of air blowing in the air supported tracks for simple harmonic motion experiments in the lab to the right, we could just play some music while we were doing our astronomy activities. And I thought that that was a fun way to keep the students not just interested, but also have them recognize that astronomy really crosses over into pop culture. And this was the group where I was able to do that with outreach. That was one reason why it was special. The other reason why it was special was because it was a different format where the entire panel together would be participating in talks over every topic. It wasn't individualized presentations. It was more just a general banter and a general discussion. And we brought in guests like David Levy, Scott Roberts, David Eicher, Natalie Willette. We brought in guests from all over the world who had their own area of astronomy or astronomy outreach or astronomy communication. And we learned from them what their trigger was, what got them excited about astronomy, what got them into outreach. And we got to hear their personal story. And each panelist would ask them questions and chat with them a little bit. And Lou Mayo, who's going to be joining me in a few minutes tonight, he's one of our more recent guests who joined us and found our group in Astro Radio Reach Out and Touch Space. And so since this announcement last week, we've actually been working behind the scenes to try to come up with another format, another way where we can continue at least our outreach discussions and this panel type of atmosphere. And so you'll be seeing us next Monday migrating onto YouTube with a new name and a new format and many of the familiar faces that you're used to. So stay tuned on my social media, stay tuned on my Facebook page, and you will see hopefully an advertisement for next Monday, 8 p.m. British Summer Time, which is for us 3 p.m. in the Eastern Daylight Time region. We will be back in some shape because we don't want to give up this wonderful connection that we've made during COVID times. For a lot of us, it's something that drives us every week. So where is my attention now that these two avenues have both kind of closed to me? Well, aside from the Global Star Parties, which is just such a wonderful vehicle to be able to come out to, I've been active, of course, in the Education and Public Outreach Committee at the RASC, the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada. And I mentioned to you last week that we've launched Creation Station for 2022. So we launched this space last year for the first time for ages 5 to 12. And this year we've moved to ages 5 to 17. And we also have a special category with a focus on the moon with the Artemis missions launching, hopefully Artemis 1 launching later this summer. So we invite youth from anywhere. They do not have to be from Canada. For this, we are opening our doors to the entire world. If you know a youth person from ages 5 to 17, a student at a school, your own family, friends, kids who show an interest when they come out to your outreach, let them know about Creation Station and invite them to share their stories, their drawings, their poems, even a video if they want to share a video. We would love to see the way in which space captures their imagination. Now, talking about capturing imagination, you know, a lot of us do go out and do observe, and today was one of our Insider's Guide to the Galaxy. These are every other Tuesday from 3:30 to 5 Eastern Standard or Eastern Daylight Time. And our outreach coordinator, Samantha Jewett, who we met a few weeks ago, and our other host, Chris Vaughn, who's an outreach person in Toronto, the two of them together give us just amazing information about what's coming up in the night sky that week. We also have our Next Gen group, which has their scholarships, their annual scholarships are in their last week. Now, this is for Canadian citizens and Canadian permanent residents only, but I know a lot of our audience is now from Canada. We do have several listeners from, north of the 49th parallel there. If you know of kids that have an interest in pursuing careers with programs at university that overlap to space science, or if you know kids of any ages, it's easier for high school students to do this, but really for any age, we can work with that. If they have a project they want to do within their community, there are scholarships now available at the RASC funded by our Next Gen committee. And our Next Gen committee was founded by one of my former students, Emily Laflèche. We're also working towards our GA, which is coming up later in June. Our General Assembly is open to everyone, and you can see the information at rasc.ca. I believe the general attendance ticket is $30 Canadian, which is, I think, about the price of a coffee in the US. And you can join us for the GA, and we have some wonderful talks coming up, amazing sessions, including a poster session that will feature some of my students' work. And as always, if you're interested in astronomy, think RASC. We would love to have you as part of the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada, and we'd love to have you join us, even just come to some of our programs, our Montreal Center programs. I always advertise here on the Global Star Parties, but at rasc.ca, if you sign up to our newsletter, you'll find out about all the different center programs. And a lot of us are still staying co-modal, even after we start going back to some in-person material. Now, before I introduce our guest, I would love to open it up for about 5 to 10 minutes on our cosmic origin stories. Now, a few months back, Scott had done a theme that worked just perfectly for talking about the way in which we all came into astronomy. And I talked briefly about the fact that, my very first outreach event was also one of the saddest outreach events I ever could consider having happen, which was the Challenger launch. And I was an elementary school kid at the time, and I turned and walked away from astronomy, and I just didn't think I'd ever come back. And then I had the fortune of working with gravitational wave astronomer and astrophysicist Eric Poisson and hosting Kip Thorne for a talk at the Canadian Undergraduate Physics Conference at the University of Guelph in 1996. Now, I just found out last week that my alma mater, the University of Guelph, is hosting the Canadian Undergraduate Physics Conference again this coming fall. And I was in love with that conference, this idea of bringing a bunch of undergrads together, and it's run by students for students, kind of like our Cosmic Generation Club, but across all of physics. And so I've given them a few pointers from my experience from, many, many, many moons ago in 96. And yes, there was a life before the 2000s. There was, science happening before the internet. All of this was the case. But I talked to them a little bit about the way in which this kind of spurred me back into research side of science and an interest in really keeping that outreach side of things going. And even though I wandered away from astrophysics, I've come back to the community as an astronomy teacher. So I would love to hear from some of our panel your origin stories. So Adrian, I'm going to pass it to you for a couple of minutes. Tell us what your first spur was to bring you under the stars, your cosmic origin.
Well, it certainly wasn't the New York Yankees. I hear that Yankee fans are also allowed in the RASC. I had to dig to you on that. But I actually go back to when I was 7 and was mesmerized by looking up at Ursa Major, the Big Dipper. At the time, I even remember it was high in the zenith. That memory has never left me, and the idea of seeing the stars returned. Now, I don't recall exactly the exact moment, but I do remember a year prior to joining the University Lowbrows, which would be back, I want to say 2013, maybe 2012. So I rediscovered astronomy late in life. I went out on a quest to view the Milky Way naked eye. And of course, with skies not being as dark, I still completed my quest and went to a place where it looked like it was a rural area. It looks like, oh, this looks like a pretty dark place. And squinted until I found the teapot asterism, and then noticed the little steam coming from the teapot.
Excellent.
I hadn't stopped since. I eventually joined the University Lowbrows, went to an open house and joined on the spot, and just it snowballed from there. The things opened up, and the imaging part was inspired by my dear friend David. That chapter took off after a talk at the University of Michigan, and an image that I still carry to this day on my phone as like a background screen. A simple image that Dr. Levy took of Crux, the Southern Cross, while I think you said you were at a hotel or somewhere. You just took the shot. It's a crude shot, but there's the 4 stars of Crux. And something about that shot let me know that I'm able to, you can capture starlight with a camera.
Yeah.
It was right on top of the parking lot light at the hotel.
Yes. I still even remember the fan that was in your picture, and the stars that were, or the part of the hotel steam or something that was blurred out because and then you had the stars. As it turns out, a recent image that I tried to take while in Vegas of the lunar eclipse had a similar thing to your picture because there was steam coming out, but I focused in on the moon. Yep. As it was being eclipsed. So now I know how you got that picture, but I haven't stopped imaging and observing the night sky ever since. So
when you talk about like seeing it as a kid, but then actually discovering the hobby through an open house for the lowbrows, and then discovering astrophotography through something Dovid shared. When we share our pictures and our stories online, and when we do our in-person events, it's that opportunity for people to come back to their origin story, that moment that they remember. And one of my students actually came into class a few weeks ago and said, sir, this has been on the back of my mind all term, but I remember as a kid seeing this cool arrangement of a couple of dots near the horizon when I was camping in such and such year and such date. What would I have seen? I don't know what I saw, and so I took him to Stellarium, and we went to the location where he was at, and we went back in time to the weekend that he went camping, and he looks, and there's Jupiter and Saturn right near the horizon, and he's like, oh my God, I saw, and this is where you start to connect to the outreach that we do to other people's origin stories and the things that can get them going. So Dovid got me started on the connection with music. He got you started on the connection with astrophotography. Scott, your origin story. Let's go. Nobody ever lets you talk. How about we hear from you?
My origin story? Well, I think that it came in phases. Okay. I have an origin story. I think my earliest one is when I'm maybe 3 years old. Looking through the front, my mother's kitchen screen, okay, and I'm seeing a bright light that's got diffraction spikes on it from the screen itself, and it's brilliant. It's just captivating for me. I'm playing with my toys in the kitchen floor, and I see this, and I ask my mom what this is, and she tells me it's a star, And so that's still burnt in my brain. Okay, there are times where things get baked in, and I can still remember it. And just kind of that beautiful, deep azure blue and this sparkling, spectacle through that screen door, and not knowing why or what, but really being captivated. And then, of course, I was. A jet age, space age kid, of the 60s, watching the Apollo astronauts get ready. And then, as they were broadcasting that they were actually going to go to the moon, and just going and thinking to myself, this is like science fiction come real, for sure. And to watch that all happen and unfold, I was absolutely riveted. So me with probably millions of other kids were transformed into thinking about our place in space. And then there's a break of several years. I get my first telescope. I observe the moon with it, and then there's a break of about maybe 10 years. But still, these seeds have been planted. Okay, and then I start getting involved into the community, the lifestyle of amateur astronomy about 1980, and involved with selling telescopes, getting other people, outfitted to go on their exploration of the universe. And watching that happen was, really amazing to me, and made me want to get more and more involved in astronomy outreach. So I started doing sidewalk astronomy before I knew it was the thing, and we had just so much incredible support from, we're in Oceanside, California, Southern California, so we have people from Palomar coming down and from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory coming down and this kind of thing, because we were one of the few telescope shops in the area. And so that was super. And so that happened to me. And then it was just wave after wave of inspiration from all kinds of people, including people like yourself, Karim, and the other people that present on Global Star Party. In fact, to do this every week has really been, for me, it's just been a special privilege. I feel like, I pinch myself sometimes just thinking, gosh, I got to hang out with these people, and we had this amazing audience that watches us from around the world. So it's very special, and it's I never get to a point where I think, okay, well, I've had enough experiences, or I've had enough, that doesn't happen. It's like a breath of fresh air every time. So I love it. That's
fantastic.
For me.
And speaking of our audience, I will encourage our audience to put their origin stories in the comments on YouTube or Facebook, and we'd love to see them. And I will,
sure,
as soon as we're done and offline, or when I have to go and start answering students' questions again, I'll go on and I'll read everyone's comments, and I'd love to see that. And I may even talk about this a little bit next week as well. I see Michael, Lou, and Maxi and David are all here, but I think I'm going to move on to introducing Lou for his segment, because I'm really happy to have Lou here with us tonight. Lou is formerly with the Goddard Space Center. He was a planetary scientist there for, I believe, almost 40 years. And he's now an astronomy prof at Marymount University. And so I met Lou through the Astro Radio Reach Out Touch Space panel. And then we realized, we're both astronomy instructors. And so our plan is, once we get all of our marks in, we're going to kind of share a few activities and see if we can both benefit a little bit from what each other has been dabbling with our students. And then I started to find out about all these other amazing projects that Lou's been involved in. So I've already kind of connected some of the material he worked on with NASA Goddard, with our student club support group here at the RASC Education and Public Outreach Committee, the ones that have been working with Chuck Allen and Carroll Org on kind of carrying some of the work done by the Astronomical League and by the RASC and starting to bring it together, so we're not all trying to reinvent the same wheel. Well, it turns out NASA's also been working on the same wheel, so we can kind of share a lot of these resources together. So when I talked to Lou about the GSP, he was like, I know some of these people. This sounds great. Let's come on. So I thought it's a great time for the 95th GSP to bring Lou Mayo on, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about the search for life in the solar system and some of the projects that he's working on. So Lou, I'll turn it over to you.
Well, thanks, Karim. The thing that is really hitting me right now is how much I enjoy spending time with my peeps, people who are into astronomy education, just have it as a passion in their hearts, like I do. So it's great. It's great to see all of you, old friends, new friends. It's nice to be here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the search for life in the universe, both what we've discovered and what we plan to discover, what the future holds. And then I've got a really special shout out to a group of very special people that I'm working with. So may I share my screen?
Of course.
All right. I should say, can I share my screen? I don't. That's
Will you share your
Will I share my screen? Okay, now let's see here. Okay. See a big gray and red thing there?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So I'm going to limit my talk today to just search for life in our solar system. Certainly the search for life is perhaps the most profound unanswered question in astronomy or in science. Are we alone? And the answer to that question is, whether it's yes or no, has enormous implications for who we are as a species. So we reach out and we explore. That's who we are. That's in our DNA. We're explorers. And this picture that I'm showing you here is one of those explorations. This is Mercury, the planet Mercury, a place where you would think, well, let's not waste our time looking for life there. But it turns out that because its orbital inclination, its rotation axis is not very tilted, it has polar craters that never see the light of day. And in these polar craters that are very cold because it's nighttime all the time, and Mercury has essentially no atmosphere to spread the heat, we find evidence both from reflective radar and from neutron spectroscopy from the MESSENGER mission. We find evidence of water ice. So when we look for life out in the solar system, when we look for life in the universe, one of the things we follow is water, because on Earth, everywhere we find liquid water, that is, everywhere we find life. So strangely, Mercury has these deposits of frozen water. There's an interesting set of reports for a while, we're moving out now to Venus, that Venus might have phosphine in its atmosphere. And while the surface of Venus, I tell this joke to my astronomy students every semester, which is so great. I get a new group of people who don't know my jokes. And so the joke ends with two Venusians who are saying, I can't take this heat. And one says, yeah, but it's dry heat. So it's
Okay, I liked that one.
kind of a joke about Venus because it's dry. So Venus, it turns out that even though Venus' atmosphere is very dry in terms of water, it has about as much water as the Earth's atmosphere. It's just a whole lot more dense. And so the possibility for life not in the surface where it's 900 degrees Fahrenheit, but higher up in the atmosphere where it's a little more balmy might exist. And so the discovery of phosphine, which is a biomarker, really caught the attention of the astronomical community. However, as good scientists, we love new information and we go about trying to replicate it. And it turns out that it's probably not phosphine in the atmosphere of Venus. So I'm going to show you a little bit about what we're doing in the future to explore Venus. But for right now, interesting possibility because the middle atmosphere is not very hot, but no phosphine. So we'll skip Earth for obvious reasons, okay? And move out to Mars. Mars is really tantalizing. When we talk about tantalizing evidence for the possibility of life, Mars just jumps out. And this is a graph of methane, of surface methane on Mars. This was first identified, I think, by Mike Muma from ground-based observations on Mauna Kea. Mike is out at Goddard Space Flight Center. And then verified by Curiosity rover on the surface. And the idea here is that we see methane on the surface, and we see not as much methane in the colder months, and we see more methane in the warmer months. This is not proof that there's life under the surface, but as methane is a biomarker, it would be consistent with the existence of microbial life under the surface, which would tend to multiply more in the summer months and less in the winter months. So it's just some tantalizing pieces of data here. This is also a picture of the surface of Mars, and this line here is gypsum. And on Earth, gypsum forms only in the presence of water. So there is a whole database of independent evidence that Mars was once covered by water, and that its atmosphere was thicker, and that its surface temperature was warmer, so that liquid water could exist, especially in the northern hemisphere. And so what would then be the possibilities that Mars, perhaps at one point, held life? And here's perhaps what it might have looked like. On the left, we see Mars as we see it all the time, as we see from Hubble Space Telescope and from ground-based telescopes. And it's a fairly dry, arid planet. But perhaps, almost certainly, a few billion years ago, Mars had liquid water on its surface and much warmer temperatures. We understand now why it changed. It appears that it lost its dynamo, its ability to generate a magnetic field, which allowed the solar wind to come in and kind of knock off the atmosphere. We know this from the Maven spacecraft. But at one point, maybe Mars harbored life. And here's the Maven's, just a picture of the Maven spacecraft that was able to identify the rate at which the Martian atmosphere is eroding. So we're going to go further out in the solar system now, and now we're not talking quite as much about planets, but about moons, about icy moons. And this picture should be familiar to a lot of us. This is Europa. And when the Voyager spacecraft, and later confirmed by Galileo, went by Europa, the magnetometer on the spacecraft tweaked a little. And what we think happened there is that underneath the surface of Europa is a huge ocean of saline water. Saline water conducts electricity. Moving electricity, as we know from Michael Faraday in the 1800s, generates a magnetic field. And so the possibility exists that there is perhaps not life on the surface of Europa, but down below the icy crust. And there's a heat source, which is the tidal friction that you get when you are orbiting Jupiter. And there's liquid water, and perhaps even a method of fueling nutrients through subsurface volcanic activity. So Europa is also a very tantalizing possibility for the existence of life in the solar system outside the Earth. This is an actual image. This is an image that the Cassini imager took of Enceladus, a moon of Saturn. These are ice geysers seen in real time by the Cassini spacecraft. And Cassini was able to fly through these ice geysers and measure the composition of these plumes with its mass spectrometer. And it turns out that they are filled with water ice and organics, organic molecules. Not proof of life, but more tantalizing evidence that really makes us reach into our pockets or our pocketbooks and say, hey, here's another billion, go find life on Enceladus. Still around Saturn, this is my favorite object in the whole solar system. I spent a good part of my career at Goddard researching and looking at this moon of Saturn. This is Titan. And this is Titan as seen by the VIMS instrument on Cassini. Voyager went by Titan and could not see the surface because it's shrouded in visible wavelengths. But in the infrared, between 1 and 2 microns, between methane absorption features, you can see down to the surface. Titan is a very interesting possibility for life because its atmosphere has so many organics in it, hydrocarbons and nitriles. This is a spectrum taken by the Voyager spacecraft of the atmosphere of Titan. Then you see acetylene and ethane and diacetylene and cyanoacetylene and propylene and propane and, oh my goodness, ethane, methane. All of these things that are created by breaking up methane and nitrogen in the upper atmosphere. And so these are potential building blocks for life. Now, the surface of Titan is 95 Kelvin. So pretty darn cold, but it has lakes and rivers, it has seasons, it has clouds, it has rain. It just does it all at 95 Kelvin. So perhaps under the surface, we know that Titan has a mean density of about 2 grams per cubic centimeter, which means it's got a lot of water. So maybe under the surface with all these organics in the atmosphere, perhaps there could be life. Well, I want to talk, these are just tantalizing pieces of evidence that really beckon us to explore more. And we are exploring more, and everything from here on out that I'm going to talk about is future exploration. We have 2 spacecraft that we have just funded to go to Venus. This is the Da Vinci spacecraft and lander that will look at the chemistry of the atmosphere, do a lot of imaging of the surface. And this is the Veritas orbiter, Venus orbiter, which is going to look remotely at Venus with remote spectroscopy and topography. So these have just recently been approved by NASA, and we're going to find out a lot more about Venus. There's been a real dearth of missions, frankly, to Venus, at least from NASA, over the last 20 years or so. So it's nice to see us going back. This is Dragonfly, an amazing concept, recently approved also, that is going to fly to Titan and land an aero rover, land a helicopter on Titan. And this helicopter is going to fly around. Titan's atmosphere at the surface is about 50% thicker than the Earth's, and so it has no problem flying around. Not much sunlight, thick atmosphere, far from the sun, so it's got a nuclear power source. But it is going to be able to inspect the surface and the atmosphere of Titan. A really exciting mission. This is a picture of what the Europa Clipper will look like. This was rated very highly in the recent Planetary Science Decadal Survey as a top priority mission that will go orbit Europa and do remote sensing of the surface and see if it can detect volatiles and learn more about this really tantalizing solar system object that may, in fact, contain life perhaps below the surface. In fact, I have a friend who at Goddard who thinks we ought to be looking for whale bones on Europa as impactors crash through the icy sheath and water sprays up. Perhaps a whale will spray up and we'll see the whale bones on Europa. We'll see. Another mission that has not been funded, I don't think yet, but was proposed very high priority in the Decadal Survey, was an Enceladus orbiter. And so we talked about Enceladus and its ice plumes with organics. And so that is in our future. And I don't want to forget James Webb. James Webb is a marvelous instrument for looking at distant galaxies and for identifying and characterizing exoplanets. But it also has some really strong, really powerful solar system objectives, and not the least of which would be Titan. So lots to say there as James Webb becomes fully operational. So I want to do a shout out now. This is what I love. We've had a contract with the SETI Institute for the last 5 years. And through this contract, every year, we would bring 10 Girl Scout teams out to Goddard Space Flight Center, 10 councils, and each team would bring with them an amateur astronomer. And we'd give them a week of astronomy talks and activities and star parties and tours and just everything they need to go back to their councils and start their own Girl Scout astronomy clubs. And so we now have about 45 Girl Scout astronomy clubs around the country that are pulling in other girls and teaching them about the excitement of space and careers in space. And so this is kind of a slide of what we've been doing at Goddard. I've actually been working with the Girl Scouts for, 30 years. We used to do the trainings up at the Macy Conference Center for Girl Scout leaders. But more recently, we've been doing it at Goddard. So we have all kinds of activities, special speakers like John Mather, who would come and talk to these young women, young future astronomers, perhaps. And so this was just a really exciting part of my job. And even though the grant has ended, I'm still meeting with the Girl Scouts every month. And we talk about what's happening in space, NASA missions, and how their clubs are running. So that's kind of my passion. And I'll stop there.
That was fantastic. And especially after seeing the decadal survey last week with Caitlin, walking through the actual evidence for life is just, Scott talks about being alive during the Apollo missions, but right now, even before the Artemis goes up, we've got so many incredible discoveries, one after the other coming through. It's literally a full-time job just to kind of keep an eye on the news and see what NASA is publishing.
Jim Green, who just recently retired in January as the chief scientist for NASA, has spoken many times that his belief was that within the next 5 years or so, we will have evidence of life outside the Earth. So wow. Really exciting.
Wow. Amazing. I personally myself can't wait to hear that news, because I think most of us believe that there's life all over the universe, hard to find it, but it seems like everything that was hard to find, when we looked close enough and tried hard enough and devised instruments that were sensitive enough, we were able to do things like hear the echoes of black holes swallowing each other up and actually able to image black holes, which were like straight up science fiction in the 1960s. So it seemed anyways. It is, you touched on something earlier, Lou, about it's the human condition to explore. And I think that is hardwired into our DNA and into our hearts and minds. And, we will continue to make new discoveries and reveal more about who we are and our place in the universe. So very cool. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Thanks. It's great to hear you again, Lou. And Karim, thanks for bringing him on. Up next is Dustin Gibson. Dustin, I first met when he came on to be one of the owners of Oceanside Photo and Telescope, a place where is also one of my origins, where I really got involved in astronomy outreach and was able to see a broad range of people interested in astronomy, and to learn more and more about the astronomical community itself, from people who were just learning, stargazing from their backyard, to people that were building new instrumentation for the Palomar 200-inch telescope, which was just, an hour or two drive from Oceanside. Again, I'll say that the adventures have been nonstop since then. So, Dustin is an incredible astrophotographer in his own right. He loves the aspect of exploring the universe. When I hear him talk, he's very inspiring. He has had his own podcast called Space Junk. He's given so much back to the astronomical community that he is definitely a special person in what I would call the amateur astronomical industry. So, Dustin, you want to come on?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure if you can hear me okay.
Hear you just fine. It's perfect.
Perfect. Thanks, man. That's quite an introduction. I'm not sure I'm deserving of all that, but thank you.
absolutely.
know?
I didn't even really touch on it very much.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Yeah, you know, we've had so many of these conversations, and I love what you're doing. I love this group too, by the way. Like, the world needs more of this conversation everywhere. It'd be a much better place for me. I'd fit in a lot better everywhere I went, you know, because this is all we obsess over constantly, you know, especially at OPT. But then Scott and I personally, you know, Scott, you were just here in Alabama. I convinced you to come to Alabama, right?
Yeah,
And
you did, you know,
Yeah.
so you had
Yeah.
this great idea about putting up this observatory where people in your community can be exposed to the night sky, and seeing you interact with the mayor of that town, and you know, these people are just on fire about it, and it's because of you.
Well, I think that access has to be created, and I know that you share the passion through our many discussions about it. But the access to the universe, I mean, once you look through a telescope, once you have the opportunity to, and I didn't until I was 28 years old. You know, I went through all the way through college without ever looking through a telescope. And you know, I studied philosophy for 4 years, and then a few other sciences, biology, and then chemistry, and a few things. And afterward, you know, I looked through a telescope, and I was like, I really spent 4 years buying the books, and I could have gotten all this information in 10 seconds with a telescope, right? You learn so much about yourself and your place in the universe just taking a look for the first time, you know, and experiencing, witnessing where it is, your place among this extremely, like, unimaginably vast universe. And that's something that I think that everybody at least needs to witness, you know, once in their life, if not, you know, the way we do, which is basically every time the sky is clear. But, you know, I think that's the goal. That has to be the vision, is how do we create and share access to the universe? And basically everything in our mission has been about that. But, you know, this new project is no exception to that. We're just trying to work with a very small town in Alabama to build what will eventually be a telescope park. And it's looking like it's happening pretty fast. But the idea being that, you know, a town could have access to very large, I mean, in this case, it'll be a 1 meter telescope plus a couple of 24-inch telescopes and several imaging telescopes that, you know,
Wow.
they can come out to use, and then also set up their own so that there could be a community developed around it. And that's the idea, is getting people to share the experience. And so I'm really looking forward to it, pushing very hard to make it all happen quickly. But you know, these things, I feel like the more people understand the perspective, you know, once it gets in your blood, you can't get it out.
Right.
And so you just have to open the door for people. And if we create that, we solve the inertia problem. We really, you know, you give somebody that perspective, and it's something that's cherished from then on. So that's the goal, that's the vision, and we'll see where it goes, but I'm super excited about it.
That's awesome. Well, I know that you have a lot of other things on the horizon. Every time we talk, you're talking about new community interaction, and I hope that I can convince you, and I think that actually you're the one that brought it up, that you could come here to Arkansas and basically get something going here as well. So our little corner of Northwest Arkansas has a lot of amateur astronomers here that are very, very interested, but they don't have anything going like on the magnitude of what you're doing, Dustin. So I think that's fantastic. The amazing contributions that you're making. You've mentioned it about me, but really, to be very honest, I've never seen anyone that was in the amateur telescope, retail industry doing what you're doing. It's really innovative.
Yeah, well, thank you. You know, it certainly feels important. It feels like a life mission, and it has since, I looked through that telescope. I mean, it literally changed my entire career path. Went to school for 11 years to change directions overnight. Right. So it can be a pretty moving experience. And I can't tell you how many conversations I've had. A good friend of mine, Kat Machin, she's one of the world's leading space artists and paints for people like Elon Musk and things. And, listening to her, it's the same story over and over. And, I could give you countless friends that have all told the same story, but the truth is it's just that this really is that spectacular. The hobby is more than a hobby. And it truly gives you a perspective that I feel like is valuable on whichever level you need it to be. It really does transcend so many barriers that other things just simply can't.
That's
Anywhere
right.
you go in the world, anywhere, you find that very few things can do it. Every culture that's ever existed has their music, their humor, and their love for space. And their stories around it, right? And it's like, that's the one that we connect with most. And that's the thing that still somehow today is young, is still somehow today the oldest science ever and the least explored. And so I just think, you know, because we're in a position, the first generations ever in human history, to have the opportunity with the technology that exists today to share these things from our backyards in high resolution, it's time. There are no reasons for us not to now. We can make every person on the planet a modern explorer, and we should.
Right.
At least present the opportunity.
Yeah, and I've watched many of your programs, Dustin, and you've had amazing speakers on. But the ones that really touched my heart the most, I think, were the really young ones that have come on and made really mind-blowing astrophotographs, all on their own. You know, so how do you feel about that?
It's my favorite thing about it, honestly. I feel like there are two kind of schools of thought in astronomy. There's this one, which is, you know, my perspective is that, you know, we will not have achieved our goal until the children are taking better photos than we are, until they're teaching us. You know, we should pass the baton, not to prove how heavy it's been, but instead to, you know, usher forth the new generations, take it further than we ever could. That should be the mission. And that's our responsibility, is to make sure that that's accomplished. And then the other one is, of course, you can't use GoTo because I didn't, and you got to do it the hard way. You know?
Right. Like, oh yeah. Right.
well, I mean, I understand. Like we've everybody here has probably wasted a lot of time making mistakes in astronomy, very painful and expensive ones. But that's not the goal. The goal isn't to pass forward the pain. It's to pass forward the lessons. And I think, you know, I'm seeing more and more of that happen. The best image on my entire Instagram was taken by a 12-year-old. It wasn't even my image, you know, and that's very rewarding, because it's just confirmation that what we're doing is working.
Right. That's fantastic. Well, that's great. Dustin, you are bringing on Sean from who has his own program on. It has tons of followers, but tell us a little bit about Sean before we.
I'd love to do his introduction. I'd love to pass it to Sean. Sean's one of my best friends in the world. Actually, just moved across the country to be closer. We're working on another project together that he may or may not dig into. But Sean is Tagback TV on YouTube, gigantic following, over 1 million daily followers on YouTube. And Sean will probably be mad at me about this, but he baits and switches his followers a little bit with video games. He's like, hey, come join my channel to watch these video games, and then sneaks in astronomy, you know, and just throws astronomy
bad.
at everybody.
It's
my favorite thing. It really is. It's my favorite thing. I love watching it. So Sean is ultra inspiring and somebody I truly admire, but somebody that's doing huge things in astronomy, and one of the first people I always call on anything with my mission, because he's always saying yes before anything else if it comes to, you know, bringing this stuff to children or, you know, just making it accessible. So very happy to do Sean's intro, but here's Sean. I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Dustin. And no, that's the same way I would word it too. Just kind of sneaking in astronomy. It was funny. I've probably been doing this. I guess we're going on 2 years now, so it's not really been a long time, but once you fall in love with something, it's hard to stop. And I fell in love with astronomy hard. It was always something I was fascinated about since I was a kid. I've always loved space, and I never thought it was anything that was ever accessible to me, especially kind of growing up in rough situations and things like that. And then lo and behold, I'm laying in bed one night looking at space videos, and I come across stuff on astrophotography, and I was blown away that you could actually look at these things that are essentially ghosts. In some respect, you're looking at things, you know, hundreds of millions of light years away, and you're looking at them, you know, all the way back into the past. And it just fascinated me. And once I realized that I could participate in this from my backyard and introduce my community that was growing pretty substantially at that time to something incredibly nerdy, which I always love, kind of introducing my community to weird kind of offshoots of gaming. Traditionally just kind of played, just video games and live stream doing that. And one day I showed, actually, it was one of Trevor Jones' videos during a live stream with about 10,000 people watching. And they said, if I didn't stream it, they would not come to my streams anymore. So that day I purchased my first telescope, and a couple weeks later we set it up, and I got to learn the hard way, basically drink information from a fire hose on trying to, set this telescope up in front of people and start giving tours of the sky and learning how astrophotography is. And the one thing I've learned more than anything is that if you tried to make something more difficult, you probably couldn't do it if you tried on purpose. But it was an incredibly rewarding experience, because I really loved that. Anything that I love learning, and astrophotography and astronomy in general is just one of those things where there's always something new to learn. Like the science is always evolving, we're always finding new things. And it's just one of these fascinating areas that is now more than ever accessible to the average individual to be able to participate in a significant way never before in human history. And I've just absolutely loved getting to share this with the community. So yeah, we would play games like Animal Crossing, and then while playing Animal Crossing, when the sun would set, I'd turn it to telescopes, and I just pointed at the sky and let people in the stream figure out what they wanted to pick. I'd give them like a poll, and then we'd give them a tour of the universe. We'd photograph something together, and then I would give them all the raw data so they could mess with it themselves and like practice putting it together and making their own images, and really getting to interact with something that they didn't even know was possible either. And it's always just fascinating when I'm streaming this at night and they're expecting to see a video game like Elden Ring or Red Dead Redemption 2, and then they get introduced to science and astrophotography
awesome.
and fall in love with it. So
Yeah.
it's a little bit of a bait and switch, but it's a lot of fun seeing people fall in love with it.
What? If John Dobson was alive today, I think this would be something that would make him very happy to hear about. He always preached, go where the people are, and a lot of astronomers think, well, I need to set up. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we set up in a remote area, totally dark, far away from city lights and everything? But by the way, when you go out there, there's no one else out there. There's a reason why it's super dark. Okay?
Sometimes you might see the little headlamps off in the distance.
For yourself and for the converted. Okay, absolutely. Go and drink in those dark skies. It's wonderful. It's amazing. But what you're doing is brilliant, Sean, and so you deserve special recognition for that. That's wonderful. I can only imagine, because I was looking at the audience size in your stream, and I was really, really impressed, and I thought, wow, this guy's doing it right. So thank you.
I appreciate that. It's been a hell of a journey, and then getting to meet Dustin and the team that we've put together on a project called RASC, which really we want to democratize space and make it more accessible to everyone than ever before. Like I said before, it's an incredibly rewarding hobby, but also for those that don't have a lot of time, it's an incredibly difficult hobby as well to kind of get into. The learning curve is high. You have to learn a lot of things. And, I want to be able to get this hobby, or whatever you want to call it, passion, to be more accessible to people. And we're creating, software and hardware and things like that allow you to be able to hook up telescopes and have more of because we have, these cameras that DSLRs have gone from, basically waiting 10 minutes for a photo on a DSLR to slowly getting all of these more automatic functions and being able to get everybody into photography. And we're trying to basically create the same thing with this, where if you want to get really involved and have all that manual functionality and being able to really, have full control over your system, you can, but then at the same time, allow anybody just to put a couple of pieces of equipment together, your telescope, camera, mount, and a controller on the top of it, and allow you to have this full autonomous functionality to where they can get an image their first night, rather than, the typical situation where you get your equipment and then you're like, oh, I need ASCOM drivers now, and I need all of these other drivers, and none of this stuff even works out of the box. And then you're spending months trying to find adapters and things like that. And right. So we're doing a lot of work on using AI, IoT devices, so things that you can plug your equipment into, and software to bring this pretty significantly to a much easier entry level. while also boosting up everything with automatic processing and things like that. So processing, you're going to be able to get to the point to where in the morning you can wake up and take your image into Photoshop rather than having to use like PixInsight and process your data and take hours. I know we always joke because we have a couple of people that process data on Macs and they're like, it's been 4 hours and it crashed. And now I have to process all that data again. And it's just kind of funny what happens with, especially now that we're getting into like speckle interferometry and lucky imaging, where you're having these massive data packets. You know, you're imaging at sub-second for like lucky imaging and interferometry, and with cameras nowadays going past 60, 100 megapixels, you're talking tens if not hundreds of gigabytes for some of these projects with that, and it's almost impossible to process through that data. But we can do it live now, which is pretty amazing. So. Process through all that data live using GPU processing and things like that. So it's pretty exciting.
Program once it's fully off the ground, and I know that you and Dustin will pull it off. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, it'll be good. Hopefully, be able to start sharing a lot more information very soon. We have like a beta coming late June or early July, which will be fun. So. Get people actually using the software to upload their stuff to the cloud and have it process automatically, and lots of exciting things like just technology, and the field is growing pretty substantially, and it's got a lot of new eyes on it that are trying to make it better for everybody. So hopefully we can get a lot more people in love with it.
Wonderful. Anything we can look forward to? Any special dates or any moments where people can
we do have a couple dates, but probably nothing I should share at the moment.
Okay, all right.
But very soon we'll have an alpha, and I'll send it to you right off the bat, and we'll share some information once we can. But we're nearing some really fun things that we'll be able to invite you guys to.
And how do people find you? Tagback TV.
Oh, yeah, Tagback TV is all my socials: Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. So pretty easy to find.
Anything at Tagback TV.
Yeah.
Great.
Unfortunately, I don't post a lot of my photos for some reason. I just hoard them to myself. I post them on Discord, but I've been trying to update Twitter and things like that. But yeah, it's good. If I ever get clear skies again, I started in 2021 with astrophotography, and then had 7 months of clouds. Straight.
Oh, that sounds pretty routine. The more equipment, the more special, the more excited you are about it, the more clouds you're going to get. So I know that we can probably end droughts in many places in the world just by trying to set up an observatory with some brand new astronomy gear, and it will rain
it'd
for
be a fun
30
test.
days and 30 nights, so. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Sean, and looking forward to learning more about Tagback TV, and as you guys get your Our Sky program launched, definitely expose our audience to it. So I'm very excited about the whole deal.
Awesome, man. We'll definitely keep you posted.
Thanks so much, man. Okay, all right. So right now we will go to young Navin Senthil Kumar. He has given several really wonderful presentations on the Global Star Party. He's one of our youngest presenters, and he is one smart kid. And so he always has a great program, a great presentation. Sometimes he brings on a friend. I think tonight he might be going solo, but Navin, you want to come on to Global Star Party?
Okay, so hello everyone. So today I'm going to present about my club's outreach. So we had an astronomy day event last Saturday. So I thought I could share some images and describe how it went.
Okay, sounds good.
So if you see right here, this is our club called Northern Virginia Astronomy Club, as you see, and then this is our main outreach tent.
Right.
And then right here, this guy's our club president. His name is Paul Severance.
Wonderful.
And then
by the way, many people are saying hello to you, Navin.
Okay, so then the vice president, his name is Alan Goldberg, and then this is one of our club members, Keith. They did like in a beginner telescope presentation about the types of telescopes, and they gave like an overview of everything. So this is a Dob right here. It was like custom made, and then you can see right here. This is like one of those this is an Explore Scientific mount.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, we have some two brand and latest telescopes, which is the Unistellar EV scope, and then the Stellina
Oh yeah,
telescope right there.
have a new generation, new type of electronic telescope. Yeah.
And then we have a refractor right here, and then you could see like a pair of binoculars down here with like a binocular stand, and then you could see like some club members talking to like the public and like explaining what's going on. And then you see right here, this is like a Celestron Next or A to C.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have we have like an equatorial mount, and then we have like a basic refractor there. And then this is my little brother right here.
Oh yeah.
And then this is our setup. So the
Awesome.
whole family came along, and then this is our. These are some things. And then this is like a cell phone picture.
Mm-hmm.
My
How
dad.
many other family, like whole families do you see showing up at star parties?
How many family things I've been to?
No. How many family groups have you seen show up at star parties? I mean, your whole family's going out. Is it? It's my experience that mostly it's one or two people showing up to go to a star party, not the whole family. I think that your situation is pretty special.
Most people come like one or two people, but like some people also come with families, so it's a good amount of
That's
people.
good. That's wonderful.
So then this was one of the best parts. This is like us like during the nighttime when we were doing like some like visual with someone like was like showing like someone was showing like a 20-inch Dob from New Moon telescopes.
Okay.
It was so we looked at some pretty cool things in that.
It's a cool photo.
And then if I go back, and then this was like a trifold that they had at the table, and then some Sky and Telescope magazines and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then this was the telescope. This was like the telescope overview, but through the audience perspective. You can see me, and then we brought some other friends with us from our Boy Scout troop.
Great.
And then this is another image of the audience. You can see some Novak members and also just listening, and then some other, mostly the public. And then you can see like the evolution right here, the A to C, and then you could see an Altaz mount right there.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is through the telescope. This is through the presenter's perspective. You could see the audience over here, and then you can see the telescopes, and then right here is an Explore Scientific ED80 carbon fiber, and then with the Lost Mandy mount.
Nice.
And then this is like the same presenter's view. Again. And then this is like a close up of the presenter's view. You could see like the other telescopes in the back, like in the field, and then you could see some other people in the audience just listening. And then you see back behind the presenter's perspective, you can see the Dob right here, and then you could see some telescopes they have in display. Well, and you can see them describing it. And then this is also the similar thing. And then you could see some cars here and cars there, and then you can see like some farming stuff over there. And then you could see like a more clear view of the whole of the Explore Scientific Telescope with the Lost Mandy mount.
Very nice. So how did it feel to be out there, Navin, with all these other amateur astronomers?
I didn't feel alone. I felt inclusive, and I felt like there were a lot of other people than me.
Yeah.
So if you see right here, this is our setup in a close-up.
Wow. Nice setup.
So we actually got like the Explore Scientific I forgot which mount it was, but we had
Access 100.
Oh yeah, sorry, we got the IXOS 100. Oh, and then you could see my dad and one of those troop leaders like looking at the telescope.
Right.
And then you see some people like you see these the Unistellar and then the Stellina right there. Yeah. And then this is like the same kind of like this is like the same image. And then you could see the Lost Mandy mount right there, and then Alan Goldberg. Yeah, and then I'm done.
Wonderful. Great. So how many star parties have you been to like that, Navin?
I've been to a couple. The club usually hosts star parties at usually like usually like an astronomy or like visual event. I usually like once like the first week of like every month in the year. And then we actually have an event coming up on Saturday. It's
Okay.
called it was like a town carnival for the town of Vienna.
Oh wow.
Which I
Okay.
live in. So it's like a solar observing event.
Great. Now, Navin, is this something you recommend people go and experience? I mean, do you need to be into astronomy, or you just think that this is something that almost anybody could check into?
Usually most of these events are just for the public, for like the public to know about our club and actually like take a view through a telescope.
Wonderful. And have you done some of this outreach work yourself? I mean, showing people the stars or maybe the sun through the telescope?
I've done some. But I actually in these events I actually do show people views of like things through my telescope also.
Do you enjoy that? I mean,
Yeah, I enjoy doing it.
You enjoy that. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, wonderful. I'm sure they're really impressed to learn about the universe from you, Navin. And what do you find to be the most satisfying aspect of doing outreach like this?
How excited people are when they look at something they've never seen before through a telescope for the first time, and how impressed they are.
Right. That's awesome. Well, thank you very much for sharing, Navin, and we look forward to your next presentation on Global Star Party.
Okay, thank you for having me.
Yeah, take care. Okay. Yep. So we're giving you a virtual applause right now. And anyways, we're going to take a 10-minute break, so it's time to stretch your legs, get that cup of coffee, maybe grab a sandwich. We'll be gone for only 10, and thanks for tuning in to you're watching the 95th Global Star Party.
Harold wins this time. Adrian, who did you have money down on? Were you going for Harold or Tarek?
I am let's see, Glenn is with us, so yeah, Harold ended up winning. I forget there are a couple others that tend to jump in really quick.
Norm and Chris are on fast normally with Tarek and Harold. It's one of those four typically. Beatrice has come in a couple of times. Navin, that was great. I wanted to ask, there's Nicolina. Navin, did you get a chance to look through the EV scope or the other one? Did you like them?
Yeah, I got to take a look through them. I actually, it's pretty cool what they can do.
Hey Navin, how are you, man?
I'm good. You?
I'm good too. Did you took pictures or you only did visual?
I did visual, but we did take some cell phone pictures there.
Oh, great. And what the board did you have in that start party?
It's not the darkest place, but there is some light pollution there. But so I think it's about a 3 or 4.
Oh, nice to get a chance. Oh, hi Beatrice. Hi everyone.
It's nice to see all the regulars come on. It gives us a little bit of I don't know. It's like it's my Tuesday night crowd. I feel like I've gone into the restaurant and seeing all my friends, chatting with them.
Our little space to be here, global thing.
Exactly.
So how are you, Karim? What's up in Canada?
Canada is stormy the last few days, but personally doing really well. Actually, my wife and I have our 20th anniversary tomorrow, so we got to celebrate a little bit last weekend.
Well,
And,
congratulations.
Thank you. My son just had his final exam today, and now he goes off to university in a few months, and so.
Oh, that's great news.
Tumultuous time. lots of hand wringing as the kids start to grow up far too quickly.
And the time goes by.
Yes. David is going to be shocked next time he comes to Montreal. My daughter is now taller than my wife and almost as tall as me. And last time he had come, she came to get his book autographed from him. And, he was looking down to her and talking to her and giving her wisdom. And now it's going to have to be looking up to her to talk to her and give her wisdom.
No, man, the kids
again. I hope we might be able to see you this summer if you come to the retreat.
I've still got it on my schedule as a tentative. I'm hoping to find a way to get there, but otherwise we will hopefully see you in the fall. Will you be coming up this way?
Probably not.
Okay.
But see what you can do. And if you look at the email that I sent you, I did suggest a way.
Yes, you did.
So
you did.
That we'd be really honored to do. But let's see what happens.
I showed it to Karima, to my wife, and she immediately said, "Wait, I'm coming down too if you're going." So
that would be wonderful. Well, let us know. I sure hope so. That's a wonderful.
David, I'll be a state over. I'm returning to Okie-Tex to finish a few types of images that I started when I was there. I still have the quest to come visit you. And if you do come our way, I definitely want to know, because I will cancel baseball. I'll cancel my own plans to image and make sure that if I have to make it across the border, I will do that. I keep forgetting to get my passport in order, and now's the time. So I'll be taking care of that soon.
you do realize when Adrian says he's going to cancel baseball, it's like that scene from Major League where they're going to go and they're going to turn the sprinklers on to basically flood the field.
The baseball field will not there won't be a game that day, and I won't know who turned on the sprinklers, but I'm not
Of
going to
course
tell him
not.
it was me.
And conveniently, the video cameras will all be turned off, right, Adrian?
Yep.
Yep, conveniently.
If they
Scott
are
Derek
video.
says, thank you for the ability to watch
Yeah.
the Carolyn Shoemaker Memorial. I agree with him.
Thank you so much, guys. That was, you know, I mean, to me, it was so special to be invited to do something like that. You know, Carolyn Shoemaker looms large in my heart, my mind, about someone that, you know, just her story is just amazing. And she was not trained as a professional researcher or as an astronomer, you know, and she goes on to discover lots of comets, you know, hundreds of minor planets. When I did get a chance to meet her for the very first time, I was meeting David and Carolyn at the 18-inch camera where they made many of those discoveries, including Comet Shoemaker Levy 9. And I asked her, I said, what is it like to discover a comet? And she said, well, you remember what it was like when you first saw Saturn through a telescope? I said, yeah, I almost peed my pants. And she said, that's what it's like to discover a comet. So, you know, discovery is something that's very personal for everybody. And whether you're the millionth person or 10 millionth or 100 millionth person to see something, when it's your first time, that is discovery. And that's the gist of it right there. And so,
true.
So it's just, and there's always something new to see. And many of us get to witness beautiful, stunning transient events like eclipses or, you know, a supernova that might have occurred. If you're diligent enough and you do search enough for long enough, you will find something new. David continues to search for comets all the time, and he'll be the first to tell you that he loves the search.
I do enjoy it. I've had a little bit of success that keeps me going. I don't recommend it for beginners. It's might have been okay in 1965 when I started, but there are too many professional surveys right now that block it. But I'm still enjoying it.
Yes.
I'm sure it helps that you've got the type of skies that allow you to be able to continue pursuing it.
Earth's magnetic field protects us from harmful particles in the solar wind. It extends deep into space, but is generated deep within our planet. By using satellites to measure fluctuations in the magnetic field, scientists are gaining new insights into Earth's interior. Unlike fixed observatories on Earth's surface, satellites can measure the magnetic field both globally and in great detail. The magnetic field is generated by swirling liquid iron in the outer core, which acts like a giant dynamo. Measurements from ESA's swarm satellites have revealed a new type of wave motion mapped at the core mantle boundary. The wave oscillates around every 7 years, propagating westward at 1,500 kilometers a year. Combining these observations with a computer model of the geodynamo explains the source of magnetic field variations initially detected on the ground. Future measurements from space could help us understand more about the electrical properties of the lower mantle and about the magnetic field from deep in the fluid core. This research has important implications for our understanding of the geodynamo, the structure of the outer core, and the thermal history of Earth.
Well, we're back. I hope you enjoyed that little featurette there. You're watching the 95th Global Star Party, and up next is space artist and science fiction author Michael Carroll. Michael has devoted his life to interpreting space from unique perspectives through his storytelling and through his incredible knowledge of all things in our universe. So, Michael, I'm glad to have you on again, and we've got a couple of your books that we are going to give away. You had sent a few books over. One of them we were talking about, Lou was talking about life on other worlds and stuff, and this Drifting on Alien Winds might be a great book for that. These books, and the other book here is that's part of the Springer series, is Lords of the Ice Moons. Again, near and dear to planetary researchers, and I think you had some sort of you were in tune with the decadal survey people on this last go around here with these books, and I know that these were written a while ago, but they're no means old. And look at these; these are beautifully signed. So hopefully you're the lucky winner of one of these books here. But Michael, thanks for coming on to Global Star Party. It's awesome to have you on again.
Well, thanks for having me. It's great to be back. This is only my third one, but I love these global star parties. I love all the accumulated wisdom that we get from all the guests and all the creative ways people are using to communicate astronomy and the things that are near and dear to us. In honor of tonight, I have my astronomy magazine Globe of Titan behind me. We're talking about origins, and so let me share my screen here. Okay. All right, can you all see that?
That beautiful
Saturn
rising over the moon.
Good. All right. So Titan is an interesting place in that it gives us some insights into the origin of life. And that is one of the great, great mysteries, existential mysteries that face us. How did life get started? And is it only here on Earth? Titan may give us some insights into that. It was in about 1909 that Percival Lowell wrote his magnum opus, Mars as the Abode of Life. But I think if he was alive today, he might be looking in a little different direction for that theme. Titan certainly has some things to offer, as we'll see. It's a big place. It's the size of the planet Mercury. It has more atmosphere than a fancy Italian restaurant. There's all kinds of complex chemistry going on in the air, and we would like to know how that relates to the Earth, not necessarily now, but in the past when life was just getting started here. The Earth was a very different place back then. There was no free oxygen in the atmosphere, but there was methane, there was nitrogen, there was ammonia. That may sound familiar to those of you who are Titan fans, because all that stuff is out there at this great moon of Saturn. And so here on Earth, we had lightning and radiation that interacted with some of those gases to generate carbon-based molecules, complex carbon stuff, the building blocks of life, essentially. We'd like to know what's going on beneath that orange fog at Titan, because it seems that it's a factory that manufactures those kinds of things too. And so while we're talking about origins, I just have to mention the Miller-Urey experiment. Stanley Miller put together this crazy apparatus, filled it with some gases that at the time were thought to be similar to ancient Earth atmosphere. And then they ran a bunch of lightning through it, a bunch of electricity. And what came out was this gunk, this brown gunk, now called tholins, complex organic hydrocarbons, the kinds of things that you can use to make stuff like amino acids, biochemistry. So in fact, if you look toward the outer solar system, just about every place that you see orange stuff is probably related to hydrocarbons, to these complex life-related chemicals. So we had to go see. We sent Cassini and the brilliant European probe Huygens, which sent us all this great information and images from Titan. This is a surface image. It was taken multiple times, and I stacked those images together to average out the detail. By the way, for scale, this rock there, which is made of pure water ice, is about the size of your fist, okay? So that gives you some idea. The ground on Titan is made of water ice, the consistency of granite. The rain is methane, something that we use to heat our homes with. So very, very alien place, and yet in some ways very Earth-like. On Earth, we have the water cycle. On Titan, we have a very similar thing going on, but with methane and ethane, where it evaporates, condenses into clouds, rains back down, and makes rivers and seas. These methane storms are interacting with the solar energy and the radiation from Saturn to generate those complex hydrocarbons. And that is what excites astrobiologists. All that stuff ends up in these pools of liquid methane to create all the cool chemistry that has something to do with what we think is prebiotic operations. But there's more raining from the sky than just methane. There is essentially hydrocarbon soot that kind of snows down very gradually but constantly and creates vast oceans of sand dunes. These sand dunes are nothing like what we see on Earth. In fact, it's a good thing there's no oxygen on Titan, because if you took a spoonful of this sand from these dunes, it would be flammable in the presence of oxygen. So keep it out where it's nice and cool at Titan. Here is Titan compared to the Earth. Very, very big body. As I said, a planet-sized moon, but very, very different from the Earth. And in fact, when you're looking at biochemistry, Titan has a big problem. And I call that problem the tea problem. This is what it is. If you have a cup of hot tea and you have a spoonful of sugar and you stir it in, it's going to go away right away. It melts very easily. But take that same spoonful of sugar and put it in iced tea, and it takes a lot of work to melt it. The same problem is going on at Titan. It's very, very cold, and that slows down any chemistry that is related to biological operations. So you've got to get around that. Are there ways around that? Does Titan present us with places that are possibilities for life? Well, it turns out it does have hotspots. For example, there are cryovolcanoes, places that erupt water that's been warmed enough to be liquid. It's still very cold, but you've got mixes of ammonia in the water that lowers the boiling point. And so these places may be sites where you could generate biochemistry. And in fact, some theories say that life on Earth began in hydrothermal vents, in places like the black smokers at the bottom of the ocean. So that's one place where there might be some possibility for the beginning of active life on Titan. Another spot is any of these craters that have been created by impacts from meteors. These will make a lake of water as it melts the ground, which is made of pure water ice. You could have a lake, a pond there for on the order of centuries, some estimates say. And so here you have a puddle of water and all those organics coming down from the sky. It may well be that these are places that could have generated at least the precursors of biology. But how do you make a cell? Well, it turns out that there is a newly discovered thing floating around Titan's atmosphere. Here's your big word for the week: vinyl cyanide. Vinyl cyanide actually turns into little bubbles. It makes bubbles, and bubbles, biologists will tell us, are mimickers of cell walls, cell membranes. And so many cosmologists believe that this is a critical step in the evolution of life as we know it. So the question, of course, is, did life get started? And if so, is it still hanging around? Is it bathing in a liquid bath of methane, or perhaps migrated down to the oceans 100 kilometers below the surface ice of Titan, where there's a deep ocean of liquid water? Going to have to, can you hear me, by the way?
Yes.
Good. It says I was muted, but well. So we want to go look with several probes. We have lots of designs, submarines to look in those oceans like Kraken Mare, buoyant stations, and then of course Lou mentioned the Dragonfly mission, which will launch in 2026 to go to Titan with this huge drone that will be able to fly around 1/8 of a G, so it's very light, but the atmosphere is very dense. So great place to look at the chemistry, see what's going on. We will probably have to go out there and spend a lot of time, maybe even in person, to discover what is going on chemically and what it tells us about the origin of life on Earth. Our friend Titan may have a lot to say about that. And if you want to read a little bit more about the subject, at the back of my novel on Titan, there's a science behind the story, and it talks about some of the biochemistry that may be going on Saturn. So, all right. Thank you very much. Back to you, Scott.
Very much. Okay, that's great. I did share a link to one of your books on Amazon.com about Pluto. Michael, thanks very much. You always give a great presentation.
Sure, you are
Here,
welcome.
I can take care of that for you. Here we go.
Okay.
All done. All done. So, Michael, how do you start to wrap your head around what, that view of the astronaut standing on the beach, the waves crashing and stuff like that? It kind of it draws me back to, times when I've been at the beach surfing, whatever. And, you just try to get your mind into the head of the person that you're painting or the scene that you're painting. What's your creative process?
Well, astronomical art is really the handmaiden of comparative planetology. We have finally learned enough to see all these little points of light out there as real worlds where people will work and live and explore. And so to me, it's the next frontier. It's the high frontier, and I love to share it in that way with people. You talk about seeing Saturn through the telescope. It's so true. The first time I saw Saturn, I swallowed my gum. And, there's nothing like experiencing
You
the
can't
sky.
believe it's real, when you see it in the eyepiece.
Right. Yeah, there you develop this amazing connection when you look through a telescope. But astronomical art attempts to generate that same kind of connection. There's a thing biologists talk about called the edge effect. And it happens when you have two very different biomes that come up against each other. For example, the desert at the Gulf of Aqaba and the ocean.
Right.
Okay, so in the desert and the ocean, you have some active biology, but where the two of those very different things meet, you get the richest life. And astronomical art is a lot like that. It's art and science married. And so exciting things happen in that interface, I think.
Right. Yeah, it makes the neurons fire,
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's right. Well, wonderful. Well, thank you very much, Michael, for coming on again.
Scott.
And we look forward to, presenting those books to the lucky winner. And anyways, we'll see you next time. Thanks.
All right.
Thanks again.
You bet. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So up next, we have, we have star parties are starting to happen across the country now. So people are emerging from the pandemic. They're going to local star parties like the one Navin showed us with his group back east. But there's some big star parties coming. And one of the biggest and one of the darkest is the Nebraska Star Party. And every year we try to bring on John Johnson to talk about that experience and how you two can get involved. I think there still might be a couple of spaces left on for the Nebraska Star Party, but you better hurry if you want to go. Right?
Am I on?
You're on, John.
Okay, all right.
You're
well,
on.
that's one thing we have an abundance of space. So
you do.
The limiting factor usually is how many people we can feed at our evening meals comfortably. So last year we pushed close to 400, maybe 375, 380. All I can say is this year our registrations, pre-registrations, early registrations are running ahead of last year. So I anticipate a great year. Scott, I don't know if you wanted me, I can sit here and talk, or we could do some questions. You're good at asking questions, but I think
I can ask a few questions, that might be obvious.
I don't think I've mentioned much about our speakers. We usually bring in 3 or 4 guest speakers every year, and we all leave the observing field out by the Merritt Reservoir, which is about 30 miles southwest of Valentine, Nebraska, a small cow community, I guess to say, and way up close to the border in central Nebraska, close to the South Dakota border. So we always try to take the middle day of the week, Wednesday. Okay, I should back up. This is running from July 24th through the 29th, the last full week of July. Of course, just like most major star parties, we try to schedule them when the moon is going to be new, because of the absolutely unbelievable dark skies up there. We want everyone to enjoy them to the maximum extent. So, but we do bring back to speakers. This year we got, I think, 3 really exciting speakers. We have the young lady who, if you've been a regular on Global Star Party, you've all seen her. She's a marvelous speaker. Libby in the Stars, or Libby White,
Right.
and her mom are going to attend this year.
Fantastic.
And she's just beside herself. She's so excited about being invited and coming up. The other two, we were fortunate enough to get on Diana Hanna-Keenan's schedule, who is the observing editor for Sky and Telescope magazine. I'm sure some of you have met her.
Mm-hmm.
She's quite a lady. She's got her PhD. She's done research with radio telescopes, and we kind of leave it open to her what she wants to talk about, but she will more than likely be considered our keynote speaker. I've visited with her several times. She is an amazing lady. And then our third speaker will be kind of a homegrown gentleman. He was raised around Omaha, Nebraska here, attended our local astronomy society, which is called the Omaha Astronomical Society. Went off and got his undergraduate, I think, from Kearney, the University of Nebraska Kearney, part of the University of Nebraska system. Went on and got his master's and PhD at, I think, Colorado State. Let me pull his bio up there a little bit. He actually, it was from the University of Nebraska here in Omaha, got his bachelor's, and then went on and got his master's of science and PhD in astrophysics and planetary sciences. His name is Adam Jensen. So we're looking forward to those three speakers. So I think that'll be a full gamut of interests to everybody that attends. We try to pride ourselves as a very family-oriented, family-friendly beginner star party. So I think a lot of our families or young attendees will be amazed at Libby, and then to know that here's a young man. He's still in my perspective, a young man. He's in Nebraska, went on and got some great degrees, and now, I guess, he got his undergrad. He is actually teaching now at the University of Nebraska Kearney, which is part of the university system. So he's going to be our third speaker. So I'm excited about him. I think that'll be a great draw. Of course, as I've said many times, the real draw is the ultimate and dark skies up there. We are Bartle 1, for those of you that understand the Bartle light scale. And as I always brag about too, and Scott, is that you can actually see the Milky Way. The Milky Way will actually cast a shadow. It's faint, but you can prove that the Milky Way casts a shadow.
It's the Milky Way. I mean,
the Milky Way galaxy. Yes.
Right. I mean, it's amazing to see that effect. So, and I've seen it myself.
And for some of you, that you've heard some of this spiel before, but I'm sure there's others on. The whole community up there turns out for the attendees, and there's a lot of daytime attractions to take in. You can see some real live American bison at one of the wildlife parks up there, and some gophers if you want to see gophers. And you can canoe or go tubing down the beautiful, picturesque Niobrara River. That's always a big attraction. And then the Merritt Reservoir itself is a great fishing lake. It draws from all parts of the Great Plains and Midwest area. Great fishing lake, and big enough to do water skiing and just general boating too. So there's a lot of recreational activities during the daytime. That is, if you save enough energy. For us, of those that spend all our nights awake up there, usually we're trying to sleep during the day. But it is an absolutely wonderful place to bring a family, or if you're just really into imaging, we do have a section that we kind of, not really rope off, but we designate that the astro imagers can set up their equipment and do their thing too. And we do have as part of the activities on Wednesday, we put on a astrophotography contest, and I'm just astounded at the quality of images that are getting better and better every year with the equipment everybody has. We have various categories, like a planetary category, deep sky, nightscape scenes, and even it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be taken at NSP, but it's because we have a separate category we call taken at NSP category. So anyway, that's in a quick nutshell what we are all about. So Scott, is there any particular questions, or does anybody else raise one?
I did put up the link for registering for the Nebraska Star Party. If you're flying in, where's the best place to fly in?
The best place to fly is to fly into Omaha, Nebraska. Now, the reason we're such a dark skies is it's very remote. I suppose if you're coming from the west, you could fly into Denver International and rent a vehicle or come up there. It's about the same distance. It's about a 5.5 hour drive from either Omaha or Denver to get up to there in north central Nebraska.
Goodness. Okay.
So it's remote.
Yeah, of course, but that's what makes it so
That's
dark.
what makes and our facilities are Spartan, I guess is a good phrase. There are nice hotels in Valentine, which is about a 45-minute drive from the observing area, which is on the south side of Merritt Reservoir. So there's usually plenty of hotels, motels in the town of Valentine. It's just that, I always recommend that if you're going to be driving it at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning after observing, carpool or have a buddy so you can keep each other awake. Absolutely. Or one of you can watch for the occasional deer that may jump out in front of you too. But,
absolutely. Yeah.
There's obviously a resort with cabins, but they're gone immediately. I mean, people re-register for the following year as soon as the Star Party's over with. So very rare chance to get into one of those unless somebody has to cancel for some reason. Right. There's plenty of camping. There again, there's a number of them that are reserved spots, and they do have electrical hookup sites. The Game and Parks, Nebraska Game and Parks, is the organization that runs the park. There's a lot of them, and they put in more in recent years. They do leave a lot of them, what they call walk-ups or first come, first serve. About half of them are that, and the other half are what we call, they can reserve, and you can do that online. But there again, I have a feeling most of the reserve spots have already taken. And it's not just because of the Star Party; it's because it's a fabulous place to go, take a family boating and fishing and what have you. But
Sure. Well, I know it's going to be a wonderful Star Party, and being that you already have 200 or 300 already signed up for this event is telling. That probably a lot of them are repeat attendees that just know how amazing this is.
Well, and as others have said, you're one big family. I mean, you guys that are on here, and you all know that. If you've been to anything like this,
sure,
it's just becomes a family reunion every year, because you look forward to seeing friends you've made over the years, that repeat people that come out and to share your thoughts and feelings about the natural wonders we have out there. And so that's that becomes part of the draw to get people there too. Is just that they know they're going to be among some very friendly, like-minded people that just really enjoy looking at the stars.
I remember experiencing that for the very first time myself. My very first Star Party, big Star Party, was the Texas Star Party. 1983, and then I started going to the Riverside Telescope Makers Conference out in California. You know, I've been to Nebraska Star Party a couple of times. It's a wonderful Star Party, and Explore Scientific will be there. So
Yes.
We're excited about that. So
yes, I'm really excited, Scott. Yeah, you have two of your sidekicks there that are planning on coming up, and we'll roll out the red carpet for them for sure.
I know you will. You always do. So thank you very much, John. Thanks for coming on. My pleasure. And if you have any questions, I mean, I think like Scott said, he put the link to the Nebraska Star Party. The link is
we're
there.
also on
It takes you
Facebook.
right
We're
to the
on Facebook
registration
too.
page. Yeah.
We'll be putting out some more announcements and everything on Facebook. If you have a question, there's a place on the website or on Facebook. And I'm the one that usually gets those, and I try to answer them as promptly as I can if there's any particular questions people have. Yeah, if you want to go to one of the best star parties in the whole world, you'll definitely put this on your list. So, John, thanks so much, man. Thank you, sir. All right. Okay. So we're going to go from Nebraska down to Brazil to talk to Marcelo Souza. He's got a number of things going on right now. Marcelo, thanks for coming on to the 95th Global Star Party.
Hi, thank you very much for the invitation, Scott. Ever, it's a great pleasure to be here. Today, we here, you know that you have here the first dark sky park in Latin America, and today we were talking about how that we measure if a place is a good place to look to the sky. I will share here what I was talking today with our group. We had a talk today with the chapter in Brazil of the International Dark Sky Association. I participated as advocate of the International Dark Sky Association here in Brazil. And we had here in our region, Latin America, you see that you have few people involved with the protection of the dark skies. I am one of them. And what we are talking today is the ways that we have to measure the light pollution. Sorry, that is in Portuguese. I thought no problem. Because it was the presentation that I made 1 hour ago. We are discussing about this. I think that's something important for us.
Well, this is a global star party, so I think it's perfectly fine for it to be in Portuguese.
Yes.
Thank you.
Photometry is listed there, satellites, spectroscopic observations. We can make it out. It's not so
how
hard.
How that we measure the light pollution, and I will talk about the first one. That is the SQM, that is the sky quality meter. That we have one of these here, and they use the sky quality meter to make measurement inside the Desenganos State Park. And you have also this article that it's an important paper about this that was published in 2017. That they analyzed the results obtained with the sky quality meter, and they also talk about the physical structure, the components of these equipments. And here is one measure that was made by the responsible for the Desenganos State Park. He shows here. Here they are in the headquarters of the park. Now the lights are not like you see here. They changed all the lights. This was in the process of the recognition as a dark sky park, and he will show here. This was the old lights that they used and I will show at the end the lights that they have now. And they are looking for a place without lights to make the measurements here. I go here. Here is another part here. The lights here come from the car. And here is the equipment here. And he will show the measurement that he will make it with the lights of the car on. He's looking for a dark place here. And this is measurement with the lights, but it is not inside the park. This is the headquarters that is located 20 kilometers far from the entrance of the park. This is the results there.
Still not bad.
It's 20. It's not so dark, because you have lights there, but it is not inside the park. And I will show the measurements that they made inside the park. Here is the Bortle scale, that's a reference for us. Then the best option is the class 1. And here is the best dark sky that you can have. And the measurements that they made inside the park, it's between class 2 and class 1. That they found there. And you have a naked eye magnitude limit near 7, something like this, near this. And here are the versions that you can find in internet. I'm showing other version of this Bortle scale. This is after, before and after we changed the lights in near a house here. This is the image that is the International Dark Sky Association homepage. And these are the measurements that was made inside the Dark Sky Park. This is the equipment that we use that Sami showed in the video. And here are the measurements. In the visitor center is what you saw. You have near 20.7, 0.6. These are the measurements made here that is located 20 kilometers far from the entrance of the park. Inside the park, we have these results. That you have places that is like 21.996. That's almost 22. That is the better results that you can have. And this is the place where they are making available for the people to make sky observation inside the park. Here we have another region. Here is results that they find in this region inside the park. You see that it is a very dark place.
Very dark. Yeah.
Then is a nice place to make observation, and this is the best period that you have because now next month you have the beginning of the winter, and is the best moment to is a dry moment here. Then is the best moment to make observation of the sky. During the summer, you have a lot of rains, and this is an example how that you can also make the measurement from the space. These are images taken by the International Space Station by astronauts. This was a city in Italy in 2012, and now they changed the lights by LED. I don't know if you say LED in English, it's LED that you say, the lights. They changed the lights for a modern way. You can see the change of the lights in these seats.
Oh, yeah.
Here is the Dark Sky Park. I'm showing here again because it is the location of the Dark Sky Park is here. Inside the park that they made the measurements. And here is the ceremony for the inauguration of the Dark Sky Park. And you see here the new lights here. They changed all the lights in the headquarters of the park. Now we have lights like this. And it's very dark also inside the park. This is what we have now here in Brazil that we are yet celebrating, and we are talking about how to teach the students about the protection of the dark skies. And I showed, I think that one time here, but I will show again because we are now organizing a new global science opera here in Brazil. And this was produced inside. I don't know if you can hear the music.
Yes, we can hear.
Yeah, we can hear good.
And this was our experience that in the city, everybody's talking about light pollution. And now we are planning to send an experiment to space. But I will show here what happened last time when we sent the first experiment to space. You participate in Cubes in Space. I'll share here my screen to show here. This was recorded by a TV channel here in Brazil. It's an experiment launched by the project Cubes in Space. With a sounding rocket.
Da NASA na Virgínia, Estados Unidos. 6:30, horário de Brasília. O lançamento deste foguete é
This was the first experiment we sent to space. We had the support of the Explorer Scientific. Thank you, Scott, for this first experiment.
Pela primeira vez, eles encaminharam amostras que vão servir de base para experimentos.
You had developed by students sending in a small tube with 4 centimeters.
Pesquisa e desenvolvimento de tecnologias e programas de exploração espacial. Feito inédito. Foram 4 meses de muito trabalho e dedicação. O projeto
They developed the project during 4 months. The first time that we sent, was the first experiment in this project that traveled to space.
A gente está conversando com jovens que vão ser os grandes cientistas, né? A gente está aqui com
And this
vários deles,
was
quem sabe só
celebrating
usava
that
como
we are the first
motivação, né?
experiment.
Inicial
And
para
after
poder
this, we
despertar
send
vocações.
8
Então,
more
é o momento de
experiments
despertar
to
novas
spacing
vocações.
the
E a
sound
gente está vendo os
rockets
grandes
that
cientistas
go until
que
100
vão trazer
kilometers.
novidades e vão
Right?
trazer grandes contribuições para o futuro da humanidade.
Uma das amostras é de carne salgada, com uma
These are
arqueobactéria, e a
sow
outra tem
meats.
sementes de alface e caruru, produtos típicos do Brasil. Gabriel
We
fez
have
parte do
seeds sent
grupo
to
que
space here.
pesquisou sobre as sementes.
A gente escolheu a semente do caruru e a semente do alface. Ambas sementes são altamente proteicas. As plantas são
They're
altamente
plants from
proteicas
Brazil
e isso
that
pode
they
ser
send the
benefício
seeds to
para as
space.
ambas, porque são
And
fáceis
now
de serem plantadas.
we are working
E se
again
não
to
houver
send a
nenhuma
new
alteração na
experiment to
germinação
space.
delas, os
But
astronautas podem levar nas espaçonaves e plantar
what
no
we
espaço.
planned to send didn't work.
Interessou pelos
For this
assuntos
moment. So we have the
relacionados à
experiments,
astronomia,
but
tanto
as
que já tem
we
um
have
asteroide com o nome
the
dele. O
security,
estudante
this
da
guy
rede
that
municipal
is
de
here, the
ensino,
student,
conta
he
como
has
foi
an
o
asteroid
trabalho
with his name.
desenvolvido na escola.
Wow.
He has only in this when he recorded this report for the Brazilian TV, he had only 13 years old. He has an
That's
asteroid.
incredible. You know, I think that these programs have, I mean, you got students really sending something into space and doing actual hands-on science. It's fantastic.
Nos países para serem comparadas com o que ficou na Terra. E quem sabe podem surgir novas opções de alimentos para os astronautas em missões espaciais.
Then this is what we developed the spirit. She's the teacher involved. You have students, all the students from public schools here in Brazil. And this year we are trying to send again an experiment. And we have a slot that you can use to make to send the experiment with seeds of passion fruit this year and another fruits from our region that we are planning to send to space. Then we celebrate a lot the experiment. And now we are looking for support to send the experiment to space, because what we planned, because we make the reservation of a slot in this project, will be in space, but we have to make a donation for security these slots to make the launch of the experiment to space. We had the support local here, but some they had problems to help us in this moment. The students have the experiment, and you have few time to find a solution to send the experiments.
Marcelo, how much does it cost to send a CubeSat into space?
They said to us that we can send by $500.
$500.
But we had a promise here local, no? But something happened that it didn't work.
Did not come through. Okay.
But they are promising for next month. But next month the experiment needs to be in United States.
Yeah. Well, no problem. We love what you do, Marcelo. We love what you do. And I have posted onto the chat where they can post. You can make a small donation by PayPal. And you are, directly supporting, scientific interest in with young students in Brazil. Marcelo works tirelessly to make these programs possible, and you just never know. You just never know where the next, inspired genius is going to come from. And by participating in programs like this one. It really does help, and so I will be making a donation, and I hope you join me. So thanks. Thanks for sharing.
Part of donation, I hope that we will receive here from Brazil. I hope, but as didn't happen until today, né? But I hope that part we can cover, né? Next week.
I know some people in our audience will make a small donation to make it possible. So thank you, Marcelo.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Scott,
you.
again for the invitation. It's a great pleasure to be here. Thank you.
It's great. It's great. Marcello is also the editor of Skies Up magazine. So if you go to explorescientific.com/skies up, you can download a free copy of the Global Astronomy magazine. Our next issue is about space telescopes. So that's being put together right now. All right. That's great. Marcello, thanks again.
Pleasure. Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Take care. Okay. All right. So up next, now we're going a little bit further south. We're going to Argentina to visit with Maxi Falieres. Maxi is always blowing our minds with his amazing astrophotography, and as he explores the southern hemisphere galaxies and to reveal amazing stuff down there. I wish I could spend every night under southern hemisphere Milky Way skies. It's just utterly mind-blowing. Maxi, you want to come on?
Hey Scott, how are you? Hi everyone. Do you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Great.
We hear you, and we see your big smile. So it's nice.
Yeah. Thank you.
Now
Well,
they say that people in Argentina are very friendly. Is it actually true?
yes, we are very.
We are.
If even we didn't know each other, but we handshake and give kisses when we say hello to, if we are social meeting or something, and yeah, but friendly or with friends, we are the most of telling jokes, or maybe I don't know, passing a good time with friends. And we try to do that. So, well, tonight I'm going to present. Maybe it's going to be shortly because I was cooking right now.
You're
but
cooking, okay.
now, let me share my screen.
Sure.
Okay. The last GSP I couldn't be here, but I remember when you were doing the online events of the total lunar eclipse. I was participating, but then I had to run away because my connection was too bad. So I want to show you maybe some pictures that I took that night. I was struggling with the clouds. This is the full moon that I was having that time, and sometimes you can see the clouds passing by. Let me reset the Instagram. This is a nice view of when the penumbra is coming up, and this is because the clouds is putting in front, and in this case the shadow is starting coming up. So I reset this. You can see the penumbra, but the shadow is right there. So this is a nice one picture, and I took every time that I got the chance when the clouds coming up, coming clear. But more later, when the shadow covered up the moon, it was very very cloudy. So I had not too much windows of clouds, and this is one of the finest moment. You can see
Oh yeah.
it's almost covered, and So in this case, I was taking pictures, like blocks of 10 pictures. So one beside another one, but then I had to do single shots and get practicing. No, sorry, this is one. Here. This is when it starts to get covered and doing single shots. You know, in this case, you can see almost nothing, but when I auto stretch it, it's turned pink. And then I was trying to do 5-second pictures, even the clouds coming up, but you know, I could take pictures like this. This is a 5-second, and you can see here, well, sorry, there's some stars in the background.
Oh yeah.
And then when I put the auto stretch, the stars coming up.
It looks like it's fully illuminated, you know.
Yeah.
Right, with stars. That's an unusual view.
So I had a really good one. I think it was in 30 seconds. No, I think this is the most one that I really love. You know, when I reset, it's practically orange. This is burn for the exposure, but here auto stretching is going like that. But well, I tried to do some processing images. So basically I was practicing a lot, trying to, you know, doing some HDRR and and working with the background, and you can see the stars with colors in the background, and well, trying to get more detail on the moon, on the full moon covered. So this is one that I most like because I could clear the background, but the moon is like a three-dimensional.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful photo, and it carries that characteristic we all saw, who got a chance to see it, that the brighter, there was a brighter limb. This time, I guess, part of the moon that didn't quite get deep into the shadow was a little more lit than that northern, which we usually call northern. I'm thinking where you are, Maxi, wouldn't the moon appear upside down?
Yes, you can see the shadow is more like, I think this is, let me try to figure out.
Yeah, because Tycho is at the bottom, and all of these C's. In your sky, I believe it's reversed from what you're presenting it the way that we see it in the northern hemisphere.
Yeah,
which I appreciate, but
I think maybe Maxi is because the telescope.
Yeah.
The
mirrors is putting the
it's flipping your view.
Yeah,
it's flipping your view to make
you
this
to be in the northern hemisphere.
Yeah, I was looking at it and go, wait a minute, you're from the southern hemisphere, Maxi. This is the moon. Yeah, there's the moon the way you see it. This is the moon the way we see it.
Yeah.
So this was our view. So to us, the brighter spot was on the lower right-hand limb, the lower southern limb, and you've imaged that very well. That was a characteristic of this particular lunar eclipse.
Let me find it of how it was the shape in that date. I think this. I think this is how I watch. Almost how I watch the. Sorry, no, it's like like that, almost like that.
There's the
this
southern
is,
hemisphere moon.
this part is more right here, and the Tycho is more here, but the position of the camera changed also the perspective. So, well, this is one of the pictures, and I did another one that no, this is one. Oh, I can find it. It was more, I think no, it doesn't. Well, it's with those pictures I could work that night. So anyway, the days passing by, we had some cloudy nights, and I tried to do, because I saw the weather and said that very early in the morning, maybe 5 a.m., the seeing and the jet stream is going to be really good. So I tried to do some planetary images. I put my gear at that time outside, prepare, and pointed to the moon. So I did some videos of that night. For example, this is one. You can see that the scene is really, really good. Sometimes it's getting a little blur, but I use a filter IR 68.5 nanometers, and this really helped in this case. I put also a Barlow lens, so I can go more deep of the lunar surface. So this is one of that. This is the southern part of the moon. You can see here there are some craters. This is another one, but in this case, I was struggling with the clouds because when I want to go to Saturn, the clouds that I didn't realize is coming from where I am. So it was, I say, okay, let's get some more pictures to the moon and see the rest. No, but I had to put my gear inside again because it was really, really bad. And what I could do, it was stack these images, and these are some of the results that I get. This is without the Barlow lens. This is the
sharp.
Yes, I really love well, I have some, I don't know, maybe the coma of the telescope is putting me more on focus in this place, but anyway, when I do with the Barlow lens, I could give this. It's more detail, and if
That's
you
the edge distortion, I think, of the optic, but towards the center, it looks very amazingly sharp. Looks good.
If you put it in this perspective, you can see more the circular place and what is the sun producing the shadows. And I really love to take pictures like this in this kind of phase of the moon. And also in this place I could took, you can see here there are some pikes in these craters, and I love these shapes of the craters that give the ground how it sits. So, well, I think that's all for tonight. I hope that you enjoyed. I hope to start to do some planetary images again. Let's see how it works. Well, thank you for inviting me again.
Thank you, Maxi. Thank you. Okay, we were expecting Carina Letelier. She looks like she's running a bit late here, so what we're going to do is shuffle a little bit and go to our next speaker, which will be and Cesar does not appear to be here either, so we'll shift to Adrian Bradley.
You can go.
Yep, he's been very patiently waiting in the background, so thank you very much, Adrian.
All right, well, let's I'll start by sharing my screen, as I always do, and you're gonna go right to an image I took last night. I always do try and get out and image and learn a few things about the equipment that I have and what I try to do. I'm looking to try and see the I think this was a 14 millimeter lens, and these are typical settings that I use. So one of the goals is always to see what kind of detail I can capture in all conditions of the galactic core, other parts of the Milky Way as well. If I notice satellites or meteors, I try to note what they are so that I can say something about them. But in this case, this just sort of appeared. For these shots, I decided to step down to the coast. So this is essentially the tripod is standing right where the water and the rocks here on this shoreline meet. This was probably one of the better images because the cloud and the haze cover was pretty thick. This is a prior shoot where I was able to capture the Cygnus region, and this is further north in the state of Michigan. So you have the Cygnus region here and what I believe to be yet another satellite, or it could have been a plane. I tend to be in areas where planes fly. And then when I tried to shoot that area over the lake, that's what I got. So sometimes high clouds can drift into your shot and it'll obscure, because they're high enough, they'll obscure different parts of your Milky Way photography. I'm still working on getting this clearer and cleaner, but it does make for a lot of neat colors, which sometimes I'll leave the colors in when posting online. Now, while imaging, I found something interesting, and that is the difference in what I could see with when imaging the core in the northern part of the hemisphere, or northern hemisphere. So taking this shot that I took, I'm estimating at this point that this is about Bortle 3, and zooming in, we zoom in here, and I'm going to point out these 4 stars and this area right here. Doesn't look like much, but if I go, that's a 30-second image. If I go to a similar image taken in a minute, and I go to that same area, still not much. There go those 4 stars. There's this region over here. Some of you that know what this area is may realize that this is an HA region. The lobster claw is here and the cat's paw is here. So something that I've decided to take up is, well, can I image those and get a good shot of them? I basically have this month and next month to catch the Milky Way as it rises, and try and shoot where the light pollution isn't so terrible, or the fog isn't so terrible that the whole thing gets blocked out. There's a this star cluster, which I believe is maybe the butterfly. I'll have to check. The stinger from the scorpion, but this is so thick, there's just no chance to see. There's those 4 stars that are in the middle of the lobster, but there's absolutely no chance. And this was a reasonably sharp shot. You can see M8 here, M20, and you can kind of see the shape of M17, the Omega, but nothing here. And this was actually a composite photo to make this stand out a little more. So working on composite photos. So what happens when you go to the skies that John Johnson and the Bortle 1 skies? Here's a 30-second shot, and there you go. You got a little bit of detail here. Without me trying, this detail showed up. And so what about wide angle at a Bortle 1 site? And there it goes. There's more detail here. Just going to show you that when you're at a Bortle 1 site, all of the data from the stars just comes out. This is 30 seconds, and I got more down here. Now, of course, it helps that there's no light pollution here, so all of the light can come directly to me from this part of the Milky Way. And whereas over here, we've got something glowing here, maybe it's sky glow, and it may be part of the effect. I think the other part is just not imaging long enough to get any detail here. So I found that interesting and left it as a challenge for myself. Now, I use a modified camera that allows in HA light. This is a stock camera, as we'll call it. So it's the way your eye sees it. And I noticed that the lobster claw didn't really pop out. The cat's eye is near behind the mesa when I took this shot. So this is definitely something where hydrogen alpha light, some of these nebulae emit a lot of hydrogen alpha light, and it's harder to get it unless you're using a modified camera. So even though this is nice and sharp, it would take a lot more data, and especially with all the satellites. I forget if there's plane satellites or if these are other artifacts here, but so just showing the difference in where you image and what kind of artifacts you can get. And all that means is for something like this, we have Milky Way images with beautiful foregrounds. This isn't the most beautiful of foregrounds, but there is some imagery here. And when you zoom in, even at this site, which is probably Bortle 3 or Bortle 4, the goal is always to be able to look at things like, say, there's M4, it just appeared. You can see it rather plainly here. Any of these, sometimes I've imaged this where you can see the dust lane a lot better in M8, but light from all of these nebulae that are within the galactic plane, I like seeing it visible and basically being something that you could look up. Now, as far as the quality of the picture, there are things we can do about this that I continue to strive towards. But yeah, I like the detail to be here. Even if I do a little noise reduction, you get the sense that there's millions and millions of stars in this shot. And I'm also looking at shooting at narrower focal lengths for my lenses because of the effects that it produces. Now, this is cool. When I go by day, here's this beach. It's what it looks like. Took the shot from here, and by night, the same area, basically the same area, looks vastly different. when you
That's an
shoot at
amazing
night.
picture, Adrian. I really love how you take the pictures with the clouds and the shiny light of the
Yes,
maybe some
I
cities
include.
or the
Yes,
sunsets.
I include all of that because it's something that a lot of times when I shoot, I like to shoot something that says, this is what I see.
Yeah, that's
And this
right.
is what I want you to see. You can do things to cut out clouds, bring in, you can do anything with an image once you've captured it, but I like the image to reflect what I'm really seeing at that time, and then maybe boost up the details. In this one, I didn't bother boosting up the details. You can still see some of it.
Oh yeah.
But they are, you can see the nebulae peeking through. But this is
I like the way
as faint.
the light is also coming across the water right close to the shore.
Yes.
Reflects off
From
the rocks
Canada.
there. Yep.
Yep. This is
It's
Lake
beautiful.
Huron. This is Lake Huron, and I love shooting off of Lake Huron
Yeah.
in various areas. This is a different. I think this is a view a similar view. You can see the clouds blocking, the lower level clouds, cutting off your telltale Milky Way. And this one, I treated to some noise reduction, so the images are a little cleaner, and it's one of those that are meant to be viewed just looking at it from this vantage point. And it's almost like I have a timer. Somewhere in here, Sagittarius does show up, but I think the clouds block some of the main stars of Sagittarius. But in the final shot that I'll share, and it's one that I told my mom I'd print for her, Sagittarius is front and center.
Mm-hmm.
Sag A star, of course, would be right in here. And this is a more subtle, it's a panorama taken 3 pictures that I took with my 50 millimeter lens, which is why some of the stars have this. There will be some experimentation to see if I can get rid of that. Stopping the lens down is something that that's been suggested, and I will be giving that a try. But here you have the Milky Way being encroached on by the high level clouds. So it isn't just about this great big, ribbon in the sky, our galactic center, presenting it in different ways to, show, and maybe more subtle. Instead of bringing this out and making it the prominent feature, it folds in. It's simply a part of the entire scene. And here you have the lake, and I muted some of the light coming from across the lake here. But there are some other possibilities for expanding this out, expanding this to see more of the tree. But you are limited on time, because a minute is all it takes for the Milky Way to change positions enough that it shifts, and then everything has moved. As far as perspective, a lot of landscape astrophotographers will shoot the sky scene and then shoot a land scene when the sky has basically gotten to the point where they want it to match the land, and then they'll put the image together. And my patience isn't quite that thick, so I tend to try and shoot everything in the scene and just use settings so that everything I want to see shows up. All the stars. And I got a lot of color. I may have backed the color off of this a little bit, but I like the way it looks. And this may one day become a printout and make it a poster. So so that's it for my presentation. It's always therapeutic to get out and shoot at the stars. Here in Michigan, our weather can be so unpredictable that the moment you get a chance to get out and observe, you almost have to take it. And I'm pleased to announce that one of my astronomy clubs was able to get out that same night and do some observation. It actually stayed clear where they were. So yeah, my message as always is get out wherever you can, look at the night sky, and things that are going on, COVID surges or other troubles that are going on, a lot of times they melt away, even if for the precious few hours that you're looking at the night sky.
That's
And,
right.
That's right.
That's the power of stargazing
that is
right there.
that's why
Yeah.
every night is different. You never watch the same. Even the clouds have that magical touch.
Yes.
That's right. Adrian, thank you so much again for taking us through those.
You're absolutely
night
welcome. Thank you all for the chat.
Yep.
And
lots of
or for
admirers out there in the
Yeah.
audience, Adrian. Thank you, man. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. It's what drives me to continue looking for another way to share with people what I see. And hopefully it'll continue for quite some time.
Right. Thanks. I'm sure it will. Thanks. Okay. Up next is Nico the Hammer. Nico's been away for a little while, but we're so happy to have him back. And so what's been occupying your night sky explorations there, Nico?
Hey, hi Scott. Hi everyone. How are you? Really happy to be back. A few weeks off, and I'm really happy to be here to share with you.
Too.
Yes. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, I would like to start with some moon eclipse pictures that we try to make a live view, but here we had really bad weather, a lot of clouds, so we was just looking up and waiting the clear spots in the clouds to take some pictures, and I was able to take some pictures. Well, this is the full moon before the eclipse. This is when this was starting, and obviously this is almost in the eclipse, and I be able to do one picture that I was expecting a long time to do. That was the full moon, the full eclipse with the stars in the back, and this is a single shot. I was using my 6-inch reflector with a reflect camera, a Canon T3 that is my friend's camera that I took the camera for this event, and I made this collage with some of the pictures that I could take that night. It was a really nice event, but the clouds.
That's really beautiful. I love that.
Yes, I could take a few pictures. We are literally watching up the clouds, and here there is some clear spot, and start taking pictures.
Awesome.
And I think that was a beautiful night because we were here with friends. We could also show some live images for a minute, so it was really nice. And so the past weeks I was doing different things, and I was taking some pictures of the sun that these are with my 6-inch reflector that I have motorized with a QHY camera. And I want to show you how I process the stacked image in Registack, because I stack it and I get this image. But when you start playing with the wavelets of Registack, you can see how the details start to pop up, and it's amazing how many details you can get with a small telescope. This is a really nice picture of the entire sun, but I really love this one. This one was using the same camera and the same telescope, but using a ROI, a specific area of the sun with this really giant spot. And I was surprised that here I use my solar filter and an IR filter, an IN 85 wow filter, and it's amazing how many details of the like scams around the sunspots. It's really nice to play the day with the sun, because every day has a different view, and I really enjoy to take these pictures. And I was also making another Saturn for this early season of planetary, because Saturn is really far now. But I could get this beautiful image. This is taken with my Dobson, with hand tracking Dobson and making the LRGB composition. And as always, I really love to overexpose the background to see the moons that we can observe of Saturn. I really love Saturn. This is gonna be a really nice year for planetary imaging.
Yes.
And also, I was doing a lot of observation, because I do a lot of observation with my dog. Here in my house, that I have a bottle night sky, but I have a really nice night, and this is a sketch that I inverted in Photoshop of the NGC 3242, the Ghost of Jupiter. This planetary nebula is amazing, but because you can watch with these details even in a city sky. It's one of my favorite planetary nebulas, and this is a sketch of how I was observed that night. And a few days ago, I get a oxygen 3 filter. That is amazing, that filter, and I pointed to NGC 3132, the 8 Bulls Nebula, and if you see it with the eyepiece and no filter, maybe you can you see that there is something, but you cannot see the nebula here from a contaminated sky. And when you put the oxygen 3 filters, magically appears the ring of the nebula. It was an amazing observation. This is another sketch from that night, and this nebula is really beautiful, and I didn't expect to see with these details from the urban skies. And I compare this observation and sketch with a picture that I take with the Dobson, I really like to play with the Dobson to make really short exposure captures.
Yeah, this is
And
great.
this is an LRGB composition of that
Yeah.
nebula a few nights ago. It's amazing
That's
to see.
nice.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. And it's
When I
amazing.
tell my friends that you do this kind of stuff with the Dobsonian, they're stunned. They just can't believe it. You know.
And
No trackers necessary.
it's really nice to be there moving the dove and calculating the time and saying, you need to be quicker because the field rotation is start to make you.
Yes.
And finally, it's hard to assemble the four channels, and you need to curve up a lot. But it's really nice. I really enjoy to take pictures, even once in a while with the Dobson. So well, this was my presentation about the pictures and the observations that I was doing these few weeks.
Great. That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Well, I want to thank, I think that kind of wraps up our night tonight. We were expecting a couple of other people to join in. I know that Carina Letelier sends her regards to everyone. She did have some bad internet problems down there in Chile where she is. She says it's raining really hard. It's raining here too in Arkansas, so there's some sort of rain conspiracy going on. But anyhow, it was another wonderful Global Star Party. We are only a few Global Star Parties away from our 100th event. And when we do that, we will do some special things. We'll have some, we're thinking the 100-degree eyepieces, like as a door prize, $100 gift certificates, that kind of thing, to help celebrate our 100th event. But it's all coming up here all too soon. And so I really love doing these things with you and sharing your passion and your expertise with our global audience. We have an amazing audience as well, and we want to thank you. Tonight, you were able to see David Levy, Don Knabb, Dustin Gibson coming on with, our Sean at Tagback TV was on. It's interesting the way that he uses a gaming stream, which attracts tons of people, and then switches over to showing his huge audience views through his telescope, which is just awesome. You never know how many people you'll turn on by doing that, but I think it's incredible. Karim Jaffer from the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada, Montreal Center, was on to introduce Lou Mayo. Lou is someone that I've seen give a couple of talks before. He is an amazing outreach educator, and it was wonderful to hear him talk tonight. Young Navin Senthil Kumar was on with us, showing what it's like with his astronomy club, on a typical weekend night out under the stars. Really great to see people come together to celebrate and bask in the starlight, so to speak, with their telescopes. Space artist and science fiction author Michael Carroll is on tonight. You can see him here with us in our Hollywood Squares view. It's always great to have Michael on. He is a wonderful person to join us here on the Global Star Party. I hope to meet him in person at some point, because he's just that kind of personality. I think is really great to talk to. And so, Michael, thanks again for coming on, and thanks for donating those books. I know some lucky person will win those. Carina was supposed to be on tonight, could not make it, as I mentioned, because of internet problems. We had Adrian Bradley on, sharing his nightscapes once again, and explaining how he creates the magic of those wonderful views from the peninsula, where he takes many of his nightscape images. And Cesar Brollo was on, not on, unfortunately, but I know that he was watching earlier. He might have run into the same problem that Carina did. Anyhow, we will be back next Tuesday with yet another Global Star Party. And until that time, keep looking up.
Thank you, Scott.
Yeah.
Thank you,
A
Scott.
really nice GSP.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Take care.
Greetings from Brazil. Good night.
We'll see you all
Bye,
again.
Marcelo.
And what else can I say for tonight?
Hey.
We have.
Was really nice.
Yeah,
I'm
thank you
really
so
happy
much, Nico.
to be back. I think Maxi is eating now. Is eating now.
Oh yeah, that's right. He said he had to make some food to cook, so that was good.
Yes. Okay.
Well,
Thank you.
great.
Thank you again,
Nico,
Scott.
thanks again, man. Take care.
Okay.
Bye bye.